Hello, hello, salutations, Status Sunday in the house. It is Sunday, June the 29th, 2025, in what's left of the United Corporations of America. I am delighted on this Sunday afternoon. Let me get rid of the echo. To be joined by the Zainab Day, journalist, author of the Bullhorn Bulletin, which the link for her Substack is in the description under this. You gotta subscribe to her Substack or you'll be missing out. I don't even know where to start. I feel like I spent quite a bit of my Saturday loading stories for today. And then by this morning, I was like, you know what? Most of this is outdated because the news does not stop under the orange man, the Cheeto fascist. We also have the Democratic establishment. I mean, I think meltdown is kind of charitable at this point. Combusting, exploding at, I don't even think he's a socialist, a Democrat, a social Democrat winning the mayoral race in New York City. So we're going to get to that, have some fun with it. And,
we're going to dig into how that compares to India Walton, which we covered back in the day very extensively. So,
and I was going to wait till later, but that's a good promo because I will be interviewing India Walton coming up on Tuesday. For those that remember, we were on the ground back in 2021 when India Walton, a socialist running in Buffalo, New York for mayor, she won the primary there, which we're told by, all the establishment, if corporate Democrats, if establishment Democrats, if purchased, bought off Democrats win the primary, all the progressives and lefties are supposed to just fold the tent, surrender, and support them. But if a progressive or socialist wins, oh no, the rules change. And the corporatists, they could create their own parties to run in the general. They could run independent. So unfortunately, that's what happened in Buffalo. But I'm going to interview her because, people are excited about Mamdani's win. And they should be. But let's be clear. They're going to try an India Walton Mamdani, meaning India Walton won the primary. And then because of all the fuckery I just explained, she lost the general. So we're going to interview her.
And I have some stories to share from back in my day when I was doing Justice Democrats and Brand New Congress that we can fold into that as well.
Absolutely. So we have India Walton coming up on Tuesday, 5 o'clock Eastern live. And we're also going to get into, it's so hard. And I think Trump does this intentionally. Obviously, the Steve Bannon strategy, flood the zone. It's so hard to keep up with the cascading crises because he creates a new one every other day. You had the ICE raid protests, which our Tina Desiree Berg got. I think she deserves multiple awards for the on-the-ground reporting she did in L.A. We had our Ashley Bishop, John Farina in New York getting great footage at the protests, this and that. So that was going on for a week or two every day, every night. Then Trump attacks Iran. That's not over, despite what the media is telling you. We might get to that later. But we want to get back to the ICE reign of terror because it's getting worse. And it's kind of being normalized. So the media, of course, just stops covering it. So we have a lot to get to.
We didn't pull it into the doc, but about 45 minutes before I did some digging into the Build Back Better, not Build Back Better, the big, beautiful bullshit bill.
I'm calling it the big, beautiful bank robbery.
Yeah, I like that. And I did pull out some numbers regarding what they're planning to do with ICE and some of the new immigration policy that we can cover at the end as well. And the numbers are staggering. So
absolutely. And if we have time, who knows, we might get to UFOs, aliens, and many other things. Now, a couple public service announcements before we get to the nitty gritty. Thank you to the OG, Chris Garrett, made those Status Coup polos. We got to get Zaina one.
Nice.
I think he just ordered. Chris. I think he just ordered more for John, Ashley, Colin. But we got to get Zaina one, Ron Placona as well. So I'll talk to Chris about that. But folks, I do believe in word of mouth, and I have to show you something important because as important as we come live Sundays in part to grow our paid membership, and we're going to push membership like a motherfucker today. But also, I do want to show you, we're almost at 500,000 subscribers, which, if you asked me, a little while ago, I would have told you you're crazy. Last August, so less than a year ago, we hit 200,000 subscribers. As we head into July, we are now almost at 500,000 subscribers. Let me pull it up here. The exact number we just passed this morning is 463,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is just incredible. I thank our OGs. You never want to forget who came to the dance with you, as they say. But I also want to thank all the new subscribers, because if we could keep our foot on the gas, so to speak, we could hit 500,000 before the middle of August. And middle of August last year is when we hit the 200,000 mark. I'm not good at math, Zaina, but that would be an increase of 300,000 subscribers in a year.
That's right.
I ask all of you, and if YouTube wasn't such a fucking suppressed, don't even get me started. I could go 2 hours just on YouTube. But if YouTube wasn't such fuckery, we'd be over 1 million by now. But anyway, I ask everyone who is a subscriber, you might not think of this anymore, because with algorithms and all these platforms being suppressed and all this, you might not realize word of mouth actually does matter. Word of mouth really matters. Not just the word of mouth where you just press the share button, because a lot of times that gets suppressed. But there's several things you could do to help us in general grow, but specifically to hit this target we want to hit of the 500,000. Number one, spread the word. If you still talk to people, because I know a lot of people don't talk to anyone anymore, but if you still talk to people, spread the word. Tell them, you know what, in this partisan cesspool of a country, there's an outlet out there that actually calls it, they're all corrupt. We're not left. We're not right. We tell you they're all, we are left. We're progressive, but we're not team blue. We're not team red. And we are, as far as I know, the only independent outlet. A lot of air quotes, independent outlets out there. Go check their funding. Young Turks. There's not a lot of independent outlets walking the walk on the ground, covering the protests, covering stories that no one else is covering water contamination, covering the genocide in Gaza. We've covered more protests on that. When I say we, John Farina primarily, environmental genocide, everyone should care about these things. So spread the word, tell your friends, tell your parents, even if they're not lefties, there's plenty of stuff for non-lefties.
And we cover it no matter who's in the White House, no matter who's sitting in Congress. You're not going to get a different story from us based on partisan bias. We are going to bring you what is happening with what policy, where, and on the ground.
Exactly.
That's the big distinction, because there's plenty of people that will cover policy a little bit with a finer tooth comb when Trump is in office, and will ignore it otherwise, and vice versa. So that is not us. We will bring it to you straight, no matter who is passing the policy.
Absolutely. So please be a ambassador of the coup. Spread the word to your friends, to your parents, to your coworkers, whomever. Press that subscribe button. Also shout out, because we are coming live. I do have a newborn. And a toddler, so it ain't easy for me to come live period right now, but God bless my wife for allowing me. Zaina's spending her Sundays. We're trying to go live every Sunday, not only to be live for you, but also to grow our paid membership so we could grow, expand, etc. We already have 9 new members overnight and this morning. Let me shout out. Judy became a YouTube member. Thank you, Judy. Sharon, new YouTube member. Thank you, Sharon. Uzma Hussein, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome. Dub stepping out. I love these YouTube names. New member. Headbanger 1992. All right. Bart P 788. Now we're talking. Rob Gab. Thank you. Katz Mijatovic. Thank you. New member. And Jay Green Camp Bay. Welcome. So that's 9 already. Hey, if we each Sunday could hit like 40, 50 new members, I'm doing jumping jacks. because that is huge, and we need you because we need to grow. We need to expand. I'd like to use Zaina more, which I'd like to pay her preferably. Ashley, obviously, we just brought on. We're trying to bring on John Farina full-time. He's freelance. We want to bring him on full-time. We need funds for that. I desperately need to hire a producer, which I haven't had. And as Zaina could tell you, it's not easy to report, book guests, produce all the segments, etc., and a lot of other stuff. So please support us. StatusCoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. That's 16 cents a day. If you go to Starbucks once a week, no offense to my union brothers and sisters, you're spending $5 a week on burnt coffee. Spend it on good, strong, independent, authentic journalism. Okay. And I'll shout you out as we go. Your mic went off, by the way.
We don't do big ad buys. We're not going to be hawking gold or mortgage refinance for you. We're not hawking any pills.
by the way, do you know, as we've grown, real quickly, do you know how many emails I'm getting? Like, I have, like, when I wake up in the morning, I have like 20 fucking cold call emails now from like people pitching me AI, people pitching me supplement ads, people pitching me this ad, that ad. I have to keep forwarding it to Colin and Renee. Like, are these things legit? Like, I don't even know what they are. Because I'm not like technically against ads if it aligns with our values, but I'm not going to just do an ad where I'm just hawking shit that is just pointless, destructive, regressive, bullshit, etc. Okay. We'll shout you out as we go. Please sign up. Now, I need to start because the corporate media, I don't expect anything more, but the corporate media coverage of this bank robbery, that's what this bill is. And MAGA, if you're watching, because we do have some conservatives in the audience, this is a bank robbery, okay, which has been most of the last 40 years in America. This bill, I can't really see anything in this bill that's actually good. Even the no tax on tips stuff, the percentage of American workers that get tips is relatively little. I'm not saying that's not a good policy, but that's kind of a smokescreen that they're doing no tax on tips because that's not a big portion of the workforce that gets tips. The majority of this bill is literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. And while they rob Peter, they're kicking him in the balls and shooting him. This bill, okay, which only 2 Republicans have had the courage to vote against, Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Senator Rand Paul, both for wildly different reasons. This bill is on the fast track to pass unless the American people stand up and do something. And I want to say, Zaina, to be clear, I'm not endorsing violence. We don't endorse violence here. But we've already seen the people have had enough in this country, and this country is a powder keg. And I fear if they pass this bill, which is going to strip, estimates say 16 million people of Medicaid, there's cuts to Medicare, there's cuts to food stamps. There's a massive bank robbery, i.e. tax cuts for the rich. You might start to see more people taking matters into their own hands because that's what's going on.
And there's budget increases to military spending for groups like AI or for AI initiatives for Palantir, and we'll dig into that. But then also massive increases and massive changes to ICE and DHS as well. So it's a shifting of funds from helping us to something that is a lot darker and very nefarious.
So I want to read this because I thought it was a good kind of recap of what's in it. Since this post by Robert Reich, he used to be the labor secretary for Clinton, but he kind of quit after Clinton did the whole welfare reform bullshit and went, completely to the right. So he said, does the House's one big beautiful bill cut Medicare? Yes, by an estimated $500 billion. Think of that. Like, they're trying to cut Medicare. Before, it was like backdoor. Biden was doing some backdoor stuff to privatize Medicare. So was Trump. Mm-hmm. This is just a straight up cut. They call it by, cutting waste, fraud, whatever. It's not. They're cutting $500 billion from Medicaid. Then you have massive cuts to Medicaid. This is outdated. This post was from May. It's now estimates near 16 million when you factor in Medicare, Medicaid. So split the middle, 10 to 11 million losing Medicare. Will the tax cut in the bill benefit the rich or the poor? Overwhelmingly the rich. How much will the top 0.1% of earners stand to gain from this? Nearly $390,000 per year. So I want to emphasize that, because if MAGA's watching, and I've interviewed plenty of Republicans over the years, that is a bank robbery. That's not making America great. That is literally taking money from us and giving it to yacht owners. And no, they're not going to invest it in you, as CNBC and the corporate media tell you. That is socialism, only reverse. As Bernie, I wish he would have said this more during the campaign, it's corporate socialism.
It's welfare for the rich.
Yes. So we're paying for it through the cuts and programs for poor people, working class people, single mothers, the disabled, special ed, et cetera, et cetera. And I am a proponent of modern monetary theory, by the way. So if Steve Grumbine is watching, I don't believe that taxes cover federal spending anyway. But the way our politicians work, to pay for it, they're going to cut programs for working people and the most vulnerable. So to be clear, throughout history, there has never been a case, not through Reagan, not through Clinton, not through W. There's never been any data or proof. There's plenty of data otherwise that massive tax breaks for rich people somehow sprinkles down and trickles down to the worker bee. It's bullshit. It's a lie. It's a bank robbery. So MAGA, if you are naive enough or you have such little esteem in yourself to be happy for a little tiny crumb of a tax cut while the robber barons get cake and champagne, then you need your head examined, because that's what's going on here.
We recently reported, Ashley did an article on it, 60% of Americans are living at or below the poverty level when adjusted for inflation. 60%. The middle class is gone. There is no middle class anymore. It's the poor class and it's the ultra wealthy. And that's what we're looking at. That's the divide. It's not even the 1% and the 99% anymore. There is no middle class. And now they're going to gut that even further.
And I want to be clear. It's not, it's almost worse than what Bush did. Bush's tax cuts were totally for the rich, but there wasn't this massive tax increase on the poor. This is actually a tax cut for the rich while increasing taxes for lower working class, poor people, and whatever's left of the middle class. So if you look at this, if you figure in the benefit cuts and the tax cuts, Americans making between $17,000 and $51,000, they'll lose about $700 a year through increases in taxes or decrease in services. How about Americans with incomes less than $17,000 a year? So poor people, they'll lose more than $1,000 per year. How will the bill add to the debt? I don't give a shit. I'm not even reading that. Who will pay the interest on the extra debt? Also don't give a shit. It's all nonsense. Bonus question. Is the $400 million airplane from Qatar a gift to the U.S. for every future president to use? No, it's a personal gift because he'll get to use it after he leaves the presidency. So I don't know what you call this other than the largest redistribution of wealth in American history. And there's been a lot of redistribution of wealth in American history, but this takes the case. And don't take it from me.
And also on top of this, Jordan, we have all the public-private partnerships that are rolled into this, like $30 million for Palantir to spy on us. We have a massive expansion of migrant detention, which we can get into in just a little bit. But it's not only a gutting of our social safety net, SNAP benefits, school, gutting payments for states for school, college tuition, for Medicare, Medicaid. It's also a huge giveaway to these companies that want to expand in the way of them getting massive, massive contracts from the federal government. And no, I'm sorry, that's not going to translate into you getting jobs at those companies, because most of those companies don't have a whole lot of employees as it is and are already starting to replace people with AI and automation. So
yes,
if you think you're going to be getting a job at Palantir as they grow and expand, good luck with that.
And by the way, for those of you with newborns or have had newborns, you know that you're up sometimes at 3, 4 in the morning. So lately, I've been up at like 3, 4 in the morning, kind of quietly watching YouTube videos. I've been watching a lot of this, not only AI, but generative AI, as they call it, which is supposed to be the AI that is equal to, if not better than human processing and thinking. I don't think it's only going to be entry-level jobs going soon through AI. I think we're fucked unless the people start kicking and screaming, which is one of the worst provisions in this bill that's not getting talked about a lot. There is a provision in the bill that blocks states from regulating AI for a decade. Marjorie Taylor Greene has said more against this than Democrats. And I'm not one of these people who's like, hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene is out lefting the left. On this, she is pointing out that no, you need some ability for states to regulate AI. I've heard more from her than the Democrats on this.
There's also punishment for states if they attempt to regulate. They can have their broadband and other payments that go to states to help subsidize states when they can't make the gaps, such as broadband expansion and others. Literally a punishment. If you try to regulate AI, your funding for your state may be cut.
There is also other hidden goodies in this bill, including no member of the Trump administration. They don't say the Trump administration, but the bill is under his administration. No member of the Trump administration could be held in criminal contempt of court. What does that have to do with a budget bill? What does that have to do with a tax bill? Why would you be trying to make safeguards to basically allow any illegal act possible with no consequence? We already have presidential immunity from the Supreme Court, where you could commit crimes in office, you're fine. Now they want to put into this bill a provision: the administration no member can be held in criminal contempt of court. Well, that would seem to me, Zaina, you're doing that because you're expecting to do things that are illegal. Yeah.
Speaking of which, so the immigration portion, I'll just read these off really quick. I got these from Associated Press, Reuters.
And 1 second, I don't mean to interrupt. Folks, smash that like button. Come on, we're at 350 people. We need a lot more for this Status Coup Sunday audience. So smash the like button, share this live stream, leave a comment, because that really helps with YouTube's algorithm for whatever reason. Comment, super chats are very much appreciated. And like we said, we come live Sundays to grow our paid membership. We're going to be featuring a lot of our on-the-ground reporting clips as we go. So please, if you can, super chats, sign up if you can, statuscoup.com/join, and smash that like button. Go on, Zaina.
And if you can become a member, go to StatusCoup info/join.
That's right.
And statuscoup.com/join. And it's $5 a month. And if you go there, then the alphabet people don't get a huge chunk. So go there if you can, please. And more of it will come to our on-the-ground reporting. So when it comes to the crazy expansionism in the bill that is being proposed, it's almost $1 trillion going to DHS. But most of that is going to ICE. We're looking at $168 billion increase, 16,000 new ICE agents, $46.5 billion for the wall, $45 billion for detention centers. So those folks at Core Civic, that build out these detention centers, and we'll later be talking about Alligator Alcatraz, which we covered earlier in the week. It'll go to funding these concentration camps that they are building, as well as putting more jackbooted thugs on the ground that aren't being held accountable for their actions. They're looking at raising the amount of people detained from 41,000 to 100,000 people. 650 arrests to 3,000, and that was already announced by Stephen Miller, but that's what they're looking at expanding. And they've put in a bunch of new fees for migrants. So now if you want to apply for asylum, it's $1,000 to apply for asylum, even if you're coming from somewhere that was just devastated by natural disasters or political mayhem or war. It's also to appeal, if you're denied to appeal, it's been raised from $110 to $900 to go through the appealing court if you're an immigrant. And also they are spending $1.25 billion to expand the courts, but it's unclear whether or not they're going to be bringing on any more folks to do that. And then it's gone up from $50 to apply for seasonal migrant work to $500 for each person to apply to be a migrant worker, a seasonal migrant worker. So they're putting these financial barriers in place for people, but then they're also saying, we don't want any criminals. We don't want any, but they're going to leave it for what? The rich. If you're rich enough, you can apply for asylum here. If there's a tsunami that hits somewhere like Haiti, and people need a temporary status to move somewhere, they want to come here. What if some natural disaster happens? $1,000. You got to have $1,000 in hand to come here now.
And by the way,
this has never been done. This is unprecedented.
By the way, file this under, even though he's a Republican scumbag, file this under momentary level of political courage. The only way that Republicans apparently will vote against the biggest bank robbery in history is if they decide not to run for re-election. Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina just announced he is not running for re-election, which is why he said he's voting against this. He and Rand Paul are the only Republicans who have said they're voting against it. My guess is Rand Paul might move the other way. We're going to get to Josh Hawley, who sometimes is credited for some of his populist-sounding rhetoric, but he's another fraud because he has spoken out loudly against the Medicaid cuts, but he says he's going to vote for it anyway. So as of now, it would pass unless a couple more Republicans vote no, and moderate, which is another lie the media likes to say, because the politicians they call moderate are actually radicals. And I wish Bernie would have listened to me and said, no, you are the radicals. Biden is a radical. Hillary is a radical. Policy that allows people to go without health care, that's radical in most of the world. Policies that allow people to go hungry, that's considered radical in the majority of the rest of the world. In countries that are far less wealthy than us, having an 18% increase in homelessness in the wealthiest country on earth, that is radical. But unfortunately, he didn't go that route. Now, I want to give you more because the media, it's giving me a fucking brain aneurysm. They're covering this based on the horse race and who are the Republican votes. No, and, Trump's working the phones. None of them are actually saying what's in it. It's like, your house is on fire and the fire department come and start talking about the weather coming tomorrow. The media is not actually reporting what is in this monstrosity. By the way, we touched on it about 10 minutes ago, but this is the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. A new analysis for the Congressional Budget Office estimates a staggering 16 million people would lose health insurance under the House-passed reconciliation bill. This includes 11 million who would lose Medicaid, 5 million who would lose access to the Affordable Care Act. I'm not a big fan of Obamacare at all, but it's better than nothing at this point. Then you have the largest Medicaid and SNAP cuts in history. CBO finds the bill would reduce healthcare spending by over $1 trillion. Medicaid would bear the brunt of the cuts, $864 billion, with harmful work requirements alone accounting for $344 billion. It would also slash SNAP by $267 billion, causing millions to lose food assistance. Zaina, again, I want to be very clear, and I want YouTube to understand it because sometimes you get flagged. I'm not endorsing anyone to actually carry out violence. But when the Luigi story happened and the murder of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, which we have covered more than anyone else, update, there was supposed to be another court hearing last week for Luigi. It was delayed till September. So we're staying on it. But as of now, there's nothing to report. The trial is expected to start in early 2026. But part of the story that I tried stressing is we need to start redefining what is violence, because the media would want you to think the only form of violence is actually shooting somebody or stabbing somebody. But when you strip away life or death health care, and it's not only, cancer screenings, we're talking about preventative care. We're talking about preventative care, mammograms, prostate exams for working class people, the poorest among us, particularly in this fucked up country when healthcare is tied to employment. So at the same time that we are pouring in money as a government to AI, which is replacing jobs, you're going to have more people losing their healthcare, which is tied to employment. You're now cutting more Medicaid. That's violence. That's going to lead to death. It might not be a gun, but it's a figurative gun coming from the Capitol. And there's virtually no coverage of it in the corporate media.
It's institutionalized violence, just like the disasters that we've covered that are manufactured disasters, such as what's happening in Memphis, Tennessee, with people being polluted. I just saw a report today that the highest instances of cancer in the world is in southeastern Kentucky. That's where I live. Highest rates of cancer in the world. That is institutionalized violence.
It's crazy. And by the way, Erica, oh my God, you need to work for things, liberal meltdown, free, free, free. You're gonna say that to the hedge funders? Are they working? As they sit there moving decimals on their computer? They have a less than 15% tax rate? Does that work to you? You're going to say that to the fossil fuckers, the fossil fuel industry that gets $15 billion in free money from the government? How about Wall Street that gets billions of dollars in free money from the government? How about Big Pharma that gets billions of dollars in free money from the government? How about
the government made Elon Musk the richest man in the world because of federal subsidies. So more than 500 million in federal subsidies.
Erica, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but people like you seem to be totally fine with the socialism and free handouts for the rich and corporate America. But for the single mother, starve. To her children, starve. And by the way, it's a stereotype. These people are trying to work. There's no jobs that they could pay and afford rent, afford utilities, afford groceries, afford car insurance, health care. So it seems Republicans are perfectly fine for all the free handouts to corporate America and the elite and the rich. But it's the welfare queens. You have been brainwashed, Erica. The MAGA cult and a lot of, frankly, conservative Democrats. You've been brainwashed. These are not people getting free handouts. These are not. Now, I want to show you also, if you look at Lisa Murkowski, and this is why it's always such bullshit when these people are called moderates. Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. Some might look at this and say, well, she's doing her job for her constituency. She literally just went from no to yes because she got exceptions for Alaska as opposed to the rest of the country. Let that sink in. If you don't live in Alaska right now, Lisa Murkowski is voting yes because she got Alaska waived from the worst of the Medicaid and SNAP cuts. So she's going to vote yes for every other state to be fucked up the ass. Excuse my French. But Alaska, no. So the people in Alaska might say, well, she's representing us. Well, how dark and cynical is that? Alaska Senator Murkowski voted aye on Saturday night to advance the GOP megabill to advance President Trump's agenda after voicing serious misgivings in recent weeks about deep cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. Murkowski was one of the last senators to vote for the legislation and was quickly surrounded by Senator John Thune and members of his leadership team when she walked onto the floor. Murkowski had declined to say for days how she would vote as she negotiated changes to the bill behind closed doors. She was particularly worried about how changes to Medicaid and SNAP work and eligibility requirements would affect Alaska. She questioned whether Alaska's relatively antiquated system for delivering benefits would be penalized for having higher error rates and lose out on substantial federal funding. She won a victory Friday night when GOP leaders added language to the revised text of the bill that made Alaska eligible for waivers from new SNAP benefits, for new SNAP work requirements for able-bodied adults. GOP leaders increased a rural hospital relief fund from $15 billion to $25 billion and made other legislative changes to provide more money to Alaska hospitals and healthcare providers. They also, wait for this, they also added a provision to let whaling captains write off up to $50,000 in expenses. The corporate media, they just call this good old horse trading. I'll tell you what it is. This is the Senator of Alaska telling the rest of the country, starve, die. But I want an exception for my people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the Republican Party just admitted by giving her this exception that this is draconian for the rest of the country, why should Alaska get an exception to the Medicaid and SNAP cuts, but not the rest of the country? If it's onerous and harmful to Alaska, why wouldn't it be harmful to Maine under it? I don't know your thoughts, but I find that, I mean, the media, again, they just describe it like it's just, hey, this is just the pork behind the scenes. No, this is corruption. And you could make the argument she's doing what she's elected to do. She's representing, but no, you're a senator for your country, but you are a U.S. senator. She clearly
she's a senator for everyone, not just Alaska. That's right.
Clearly, you had serious alarm bells going off about these cuts for poor people, but you're okay with it going into effect for the rest of the country? I mean, that's, to me, very sick.
It's sad because it shows that she knows this is going to hurt the most struggling, and yet she's still going to vote on it anyway. It's pathetic.
And I want to show, ironically, because the co-president, or I guess he fell out of favor, Elon Musk inadvertently just gave away the game that this is a massive Medicaid cut. So Musk is back at it. You know, he slowed down his Trump rants for a little bit because I think he was afraid of his free money getting cut, because he's the biggest corporate welfare queen that exists. I mean, he's gotten, I think the Washington Post did a story, he's gotten like $38 billion in free money from the government, but we like to call these people self-made. So he's been going on a rant today against this bill, largely because of the cuts to electric vehicles, wind, solar, in favor of going backwards to increase coal, which Trump is saying he wants to do. But he responded to somebody on X. Somebody wrote, the energy provisions of the Republicans' one big horrible bill are truly so bad. Who wants this? The country's automakers don't want it. Electric utilities don't want it. Data center developers don't want it. Manufacturers and energy-intensive industries don't want it. So Musk said, good question, who? At the same time, this bill raises the debt ceiling by $5 trillion, the biggest increase on history. But maybe he didn't look at the follow-up tweet of this guy that he just endorsed, because this guy also said, and that's putting aside the fact that this cuts healthcare and food assistance for the poor to make tax cuts for the rich permanent while blowing up the national debt to the tune of $3 to $5 trillion. So I guess Musk didn't realize that he was endorsing a tweet that gives away the game, that this is essentially, it's not robbing Peter, it's killing Peter to pay the Queen of England. Basically.
Yeah, so much for Doge saving all kinds of money and tackling the national debt, as they said. No, No, this is reallocation of funds. This is shifting money around to benefit the fat cats while the rest of us go hungry.
I mean, it's just so obscene. And I would say, listen, this ain't my first rodeo. I started at Fox News in 2008. So I'm going on, I'm going on almost 20 years in the media industry, 10 of which has been on the ground independent. But I've been at Fox. I have been at MSNBC. I've been at right-wing outlets. I've been at, neoliberal outlets. I've been at independent outlets or formerly independent outlets, the Young Turks, and now my own. And I can tell you, I've seen it all. I've interviewed I've interviewed rock-ribbed Republicans who are, whatever is coming out of their mouth is talking points from Sean Hannity or Steve Bannon. I've interviewed liberals where they're just fomenting Rachel Maddow. Okay. I've interviewed anarchists. I've interviewed libertarians. I've interviewed them all. And at a certain point, and I think you're starting to see cracks in this, when you see, Zaina, these Republican town halls where Republicans are screaming, tax the rich, or these protests outside Tesla, or these anti-Trump protests where you see normie Democrats turning against Chuck Schumer. At a certain point, people need to realize there is no blue or red. Obama once infamously said, there's no blue America, there's no red America, there's the United States of America. He had it half right. There's no blue America, there's no red America, there's green America, because we live in the United Corporations of America, and you're all getting fucked. And MAGA, wake up. You are not benefiting from this bill. So you're okay, literally. Imagine your home as like a vault. You're okay with the robber barons coming into your home, breaking in, robbing you blind, all in the name, if we deport more brown people? That's a win for you?
The greatest myth that they sold us, or that they try to sell Americans, which I think a lot of people aren't falling for anymore. If you're falling for it, you're in the minority, bud. But is that liberty is tied to these corporations being able to do whatever the hell they want. That's not liberty. But that's the biggest myth that they've sold us. Rich people can get as rich as they want. And maybe, just maybe, if you're lucky enough, you'll get a little slice of that pie. And that's what they sell to you as liberty. But there's no liberty in that. There's a lifetime of servitude to these corporations. And that's where they want us. That's where they want us. And they're printing off money. They're throwing that money. They're yelling the national debt's too high. We can't help a regular everyday workers. We can't give childcare subsidies. So you're going to have to pay $1,500 a month for childcare. And I'm sure you know what those prices look like now, Jordan, now that you have two little ones. They cost as much as your mortgage or your rent. You're not going to be able to get SNAP benefits if you have a family, but we want you to push a bunch of kids out and have a bunch of children and grow a massive family and then do nothing. Well, we'll do nothing. We're going to screw the credit system so you can never afford to buy a home. You can never get the credit to actually afford to buy your own and purchase your own home. We're going to keep increasing prices so there's a massive inflation. There is no bootstrapping. There is no foundation for you to grow. That's not liberty. It's bullshit. They sell us liberty because they're at liberty to spend federal dollars and to get massive federal contracts. Like you said, the greatest welfare kings in America are the robber barons. That's the welfare king. Those are the welfare kings and queens. That is the system of subsidies. They want social welfare for them, for their billionaire budgets and their billionaire banks. That's why, what was it? We did a story about 3 months ago, Jordan, where we detailed who was in this administration. There's 12 billionaires in this administration. And you have centimillionaires in Congress, from Nancy Pelosi to Chuck Schumer to Mitch McConnell, who are just sitting in their seats. They're 80 years old, won't let go of their seats, and they have more money than God.
And somehow they become millionaires over 30 years when only making $200,000 a year, which is a good salary. But I don't really. How does your net worth turn to $20-30 million if you're making $200,000 a year? I digress.
$247 million is Nancy Pelosi's portfolio. $247 million.
That's a good segue because we're about to get to the Democratic establishment and Republican and Wall Street. Meltdown is not even the word. Like absolute nuclear explosion to like a mild socialist, really a social democrat winning the mayoral race. Before we move on, I just want to respond to this because I think it's important. And it's not to put David on the spot, but why I preach nonviolence. He wrote, Jordan preaches peaceful protesting. When is he going to wake up and admit that violence must be met with violence? Power never concedes anything without retaliation. You're half right. You're half right. The question is what kind of retaliation? Because throughout history, I mean, morally, I don't agree with violence, but put aside the morality, just strategically. If we all just become violent and we go start targeting the rich and the Wall Street people and et cetera, you think you see what they're doing right now in LA? You see what they're doing in New York? You see what they've done throughout the last 20, 30 years in America with the police cracking skulls? If you think that's bad, David, if the proletariat starts getting violent, wait for the response from the capitalist aristocracy. Just wait. And I'm not trying to be dramatic or instill fear. The police exist to protect capital. And a fascist has already sent in the military to LA. If the people all en masse start taking it in their own hands to directly respond with violence, which again, I don't morally agree with, but just on strategy, if we all did that, they're not going to use rubber bullets. They're going to use worse than tear gas. They're going to come to your home. They will target your family. They will do your social media posts. They will suspend habeas corpus, which they've already done. So be careful what you wish for, because you might say, well, let them. There's more of us than them. Well, they got a lot more weapons and money.
But there are smart things that we can do. I mean, Musk, the boycotts against Musk.
That's what I was about to say. Yep.
Yeah, it was impactful and it made a difference. There are ways that we can think outside of the box where you're not just a sitting duck until midterms and then pray that the Democrats will not be a bunch of feckless corporate losers. There are things that can be done, but we've been covering, and you can go and watch 1,000 protests that Status Coup has covered. And we're not saying that people shouldn't protest, or we're there on the ground. That's awesome. But 99% of the time, who gets violent every time, Jordan? Who are the ones that instigate the violence? Because it's not the protesters.
Exactly.
It's the police.
Now, great segue. And by the way, shout outs. New Status Coup member Josh signed up on our website. Trish signed up on our website. So keep signing up. Our goal every Sunday is to grow our paid membership. Before I get to
it would be great if we could get 100 signups today, guys. That's a big goal. That's a big number.
Well,
but go to Status Coup /join and sign up. And if not, become a member right here. But if you go to statuscoup.com /join, all of that goes to us and not to the ABC conglomerate. So,
and
please.
Us means on the ground coverage.
That's right.
Which I'm about to show you. Before we get to the establishment meltdown, let's take you back to Tuesday night. Our Ashley Bishop was on the ground covering election night from one of the locations where Mamdani supporters were. And here's a little montage of our on the ground coverage. Again, there's very few outlets doing this kind of important work, giving the microphone back to the people, not talking to pundits, giving the microphone to the people. Let's show you our coverage on election night.
Unfortunately, you've been deceived and lied to for a really long time. And it's really unfortunate that all of these solutions that are actually really easy to implement haven't been implemented. We've been cheated. A lot of people don't believe in the political system for a reason. And hopefully, I think this is a turn in the better direction.
There is so much cheering from inside. I'm going to, okay. I'm going to hold on to you. Jordan, our main reporter, is calling me right now. Hello.
I might go, let me see.
Cuomo just conceded. Okay. I lost Adriana, but I'm on the phone with Jordan. Cuomo just conceded the race. That is the cheering inside. I will let you go. Cuomo just conceded. Zohran Mamdani he won the primary at least. All right. So, okay, this is the crowd in Manhattan as Zohran Mamdani just won the primary. Tonight is evidence that organizing, canvassing, phone banking, all the things that you guys showed up to do, it gets results.
Yeah, it's really showing the Democrats how to run a campaign that appeals to the masses, a populist campaign, and hopefully, they take notes. And yeah, it's just really exciting.
I think the most important thing we can take away from today is that the campaign doesn't end just because we won the primary. I think keep organizing, join local groups around your community, keep spreading the message, tell people about Zohran, really get to know his policies and spread them around, because the real push is going to come in November.
No, but I appreciate it.
I was watching you from home and I decided to walk down.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's awesome. I'm Ashley.
Carol.
Carol, nice to meet you. That's really sweet, Carol.
I was channel surfing for live coverage on YouTube, and I stayed with you. I quit surfing after that.
That's awesome. I appreciate that so much. I am so glad to hear that. I am so glad to hear people are watching.
So excited about Zohran Mamdani and the turnout. And the early coverage I heard was men really turned out, which they said was unusual. And I'm glad for any group that turns out more than, they used to. I canvassed a little bit, but I just wanted to be the face. I'm in my 70s, and I just want you to know that there are people my age and older. When I canvassed, I met an 82-year-old man, and he said, "Oh, I'm going out," and he had a walker, and he's behind Zohran, but so I guess a lot of people just don't come to places like this. I don't know, but they're out there, and I was compelled to share that. And there are people that have a conscience and are well informed, as much as it doesn't seem that way some of the time. But anyway, I'm very excited about the outcome.
It's great that politicians are recognizing that they need to follow DSA's lead. It's great. I love to hear that. Love to see it, right? But ultimately, what's actually important is that the politicians are connected to a movement that has the ability to keep them accountable, that there is a real relationship there, so that it is workers' needs, right? It is us as workers that are able to dictate what the policy looks like, what the agenda is, that there's a relationship there that can encourage accountability. And ultimately, we as workers have to have the power to be able to say, hey, politicians, do what we say, or you don't get to continue having the status that you get to hold.
Hey, Zaina, I know you don't spend a lot of time watching CNN, MSNBC, frequenting the New York Times, but just skimming around. Did you see reaction to Zohan's historic upset? I mean, whether you agree
Ashley and I covered it on we covered it the next day.
No, I'm asking, did you see in other outlets those kind of people? Did you see
nothing?
Did you see working people? Did you see lower working class people? Did you even see many New York City residents? I saw on the local news in New York City like 10, 15-second snippets, and most of it was asking people about Zohan's past comments on Israel. But this is why Status Coup exists. And by the way, folks, let me lift the curtain here, show you behind the scenes. If you don't take massive corporate funding, it takes a long time to be able to even hire one full-time person. It took us several years to build up to be able to hire Ashley, who's doing a great, great job. paying a decent salary, healthcare, etc. So we're able to be on the ground where it's not just me. I mean, I have a newborn and a toddler. I can't be out like I used to right now, to be able to hire someone. So you're funding this, to be able to pay Tina to cover the protest in Los Angeles, which she got amazing footage, to pay Ashley to cover the protest in New York City, to pay John, who's covered over 100 ceasefire protests. And he's not even full-time yet. I'm trying to make him full-time. I'm trying to grow so I can make him full-time. To make Colin full-time, which we just did recently. I'd like to bring on Zaina more permanently. I'd like to, there's so many people in this independent space that I'd like to bring on, more or full-time or this and that.
Yeah, I'd love to hit the ground. I'd love to hit the ground and do some on the ground work for you if we could ever get to that point. We need as many as we can get out there talking to people,
I wish I was the federal government and I could just print money out of my behind and fund this independent media. But the truth is, if you want real, living, breathing, authentic, independent, keyword independent, on the ground journalism, you got to pay for it. And if you can, for those that can't, I get it. If you can't support us financially, if $5 a month is too much for you, totally fine. But if you can, if you have $5, we also have $10 plans. Right now, by the way, I also am paying, thankfully, Renee, who's awesome. She's been helping me in the administrative area because I have too much on my plate to handle all the behind the scenes business shit. And I'm very disorganized because I'm doing 20 things at a time. But Renee's been helping me. So we're trying to consolidate, We have our membership through our website. We have membership through Patreon. We have membership through YouTube. We have membership through Substack. We're trying to make it less complicated and actually trying to get people to come over to the website because YouTube takes a lot of money. And honestly, let's be real, folks. YouTube could press the nuclear button anytime they want, and they could nuke a channel like ours. So it's not a great strategy.
They have been known to do that from time.
So if right now, the majority of our members are signed up through YouTube. I don't want the majority of our members. If you signed up today, in general, if you are signed up through YouTube, considering, YouTube won't like me saying this, considering canceling on YouTube and moving over to our website, that's statuscoup.com/join, because what if YouTube demonetizes us? What if YouTube gets rid of our channel for whatever reason? It's very hard to even get a human being from YouTube to respond to you. It's all automated. So that's why I'm trying to grow our paid membership through our website, statuscoup.com/join. So it's in our control. And if the worst happens on YouTube, at least our revenue to do the on the ground reporting, we're in control of that. Also, if you sign up through YouTube, I don't have control of your email. I don't have your email. If you signed up through YouTube, we don't get your email. If you sign up through the website, we have your email. So all things to consider. We're also trying to play around technology-wise with an easier way, because on YouTube, there's just a button to become a member. We're trying to come up with a way where you could just sign up very quickly and easily through our website. All right. So, and please, if you value that reporting, please sign up, statuscoup.com/join. I want to get to, yes, we want to get to the establishment meltdown, but I want to get to a larger point, Zaina, because I was on the ground in 2016. So were you. I covered Bernie. Then I've covered AOC, the squad. I covered 2020. And
yeah, I will say, Jordan, you were one of the few, you were sometimes the only journalist on the ground for our candidates' elections that were staggeringly close. We had no mainstream media coverage, but Jordan was almost always there. That's yes. Where I met you, was covering those, covering the 2017 and 2020 or 2018 and 2020 races.
And I've got 2 back surgeries to prove it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So trying to avoid a third. So let me tell you, we were told, eat your fucking broccoli and shut the fuck up. Fall in line after Hillary won. Fall in line after Biden won. Fall in line after corporate Democrats won, in congressional races, Senate races. Unity. Don't be, you're going to elect Trump. Don't waste your vote. All of these things, not just by the Democratic Party, by their media sycophants, by their media sycophants. But somehow, nobody says a word that the Democratic mayor of New York, Eric Adams, just skipped the primary so he could run as an independent. Why is the media and the Democratic Party okay? What happened, Zaina? I was told, but he's not a Democrat. Bernie's not a Democrat. That was the big thing. Well, Eric Adams is a Democrat. Where is the outrage that he didn't run in the Democratic primary? Why is it okay that he could just skip the Democratic primary and run as an independent? Where is the consistency? Because maybe it was never about unity. Maybe it was never about, take pride in being a Democrat. Maybe it was all about stop the leftist, stop the progressive. And
yeah, because how many times have I been on this show talking about how more people need to actually run independent that are outside of the establishment, and Democratic sycophants and cronies will tell us that's ridiculous. You have to run within the party. That's unrealistic. You're never going to win as an independent. And then as soon as they have to cook the book somehow, they pull one out for Eric Adams.
And I want to show you this because it's an open question. We don't know yet if Andrew Cuomo is going to run a third party that he creates.
New York City, they allow multiple parties to field candidates, the same candidate in general elections. So what's happened, Andrew Cuomo has gone and started his own party in New York City. And so the possibility is there. If Mamdani were to catch him, Andrew Cuomo could run as that party's candidate in the general election, take another shot at Mamdani, and also in that general election, if this isn't confusing enough, the current mayor, Eric Adams, skipping the Democratic primary, says he's running third party in the fall.
So let me get this straight, Zaina.
How are they doing that? There's rules to start a party in New York, and it's not easy. Ask the Greens.
Apparently, it's easy if you're a corporate-funded asshole. Because Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown was able to do the same thing in 2021. If you remember the India Walton, which we're going to get to that in a minute. But let me get this straight: if Bernie would have, lost the primary in 2016 or 2020, and then decided to start his own party or run independent, oh my God, they'd be calling for the death penalty at the DNC. But Cuomo, wow, that's just smart strategy. This is why you can't take anything seriously anymore from the Democratic establishment. The Republican establishment either, but the Democratic establishment, their media sycophants, because they just treat this as like, wow, that's an interesting maneuver Cuomo's using. That's an interesting strategy. No, you can't have it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot make exceptions if it is a corporate servant to stop the progressive. And frankly, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade. I know there's a lot of people excited. Listen, would I rather Zohran Mamdani than Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo? Of course. Do I get some AOC vibes? A little bit. I'd rather him, to be clear. But I also don't want to lie to you that, like, to me, there are some, I would say red flags, but, trust but verify.
I feel you. I have that same cynicism.
I would 100% rather him than anyone else in the field. But just to be clear, we can't just be rah. We have to have learned from Bernie, AOC, and all these people. Don't just be rah excited. Like, there are some things that, seem to me to be a little inconsistent. But I'd much rather him than anyone else.
Hold on. I just want to say this really quick because I looked it up because this is my specialty, right? In order to start a party, the political organization has to have at least the preceding election polled at least 130,000 votes or 2% of the votes for a gubernatorial run in order to be certified as a party. So we'll keep an eye on that. And Jordan, I'll let you know if there's legal problems with them just saying that they're running on this ballot line, because I knew that there were rules in New York, unless they're attempting to run under a party. We'll see. But there are rules to establishing a party. They can't just pull one out of their hind end. And if they do, this is going to be interesting to watch. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Zaina, if you haven't noticed in your probably longer than I career when it comes to politics, they seem to create exceptions to rules when it comes to corporate candidates, corporate prostitutes, hard and fast rules for third party working people. seem to be flexible for everyone else. Hey, we just had the Supreme Court basically rule that, judges don't matter anymore unless it's the Supreme Court. So judges can't do national injunctions, which means Trump could pass any executive action that he wants, and a judge can't stop it with a national injunction. So I tweeted, hey, good news, bad news. This is good. The bad news, this is going to allow Trump to basically do whatever the fuck he wants, and you wouldn't be able to stop it right away through a national injunction. But good news, I said, well, wouldn't this help a potential future progressive president? Because then technically, by the Supreme Court ruling, you could pass Medicare for all or other things through executive action, and they can't do a national injunction to stop it right away. But a few people pointed out, probably smartly so, oh, you don't think they would reverse it right away if a progressive president came? Which you might be onto something there.
Democrats would reverse it right away.
Absolutely. So that's what I wanted to point out. And I want to show you, because we have a lot of new viewers, we were on the ground back in 2021 covering the India Walton mayoral race, because politics also matters on the local level. If a socialist, and she was an actual socialist, if the socialist would have won in Buffalo, a pretty big American city, that would have been big. She did win. She did win the primary. She defeated the corrupt corporate candidate, Byron Brown, and then they just, as they call it now, India Waltoned her, and they just allowed the mayor to, after he lost the primary, to run, I think it was, I don't know if it was a third party. He created his own party in Buffalo. As Zaina said, typically hard, but I guess they made exceptions for him. I don't really know. But I'll show you some of our coverage there. Again, it matters to be on the ground. This was India Walton after she upset him in the primary, which is very difficult. She had to then run again and beat him in the general. But that time she had an avalanche of super PACs, media, and heavy money against her.
When I tell you I've been doing this for more than a year now, and our team has not stopped. We have not rested. I know that we got super volunteers out here right now that know after we won the primary, we took like 3 days off and we was right back out on doors, right? We're not taking anything for granted. We are not resting our laurels. We're going to celebrate the small victories. Yes, we will. We love to celebrate in the India Walton campaign. We loves ourselves a party. We're going to celebrate the small victories, but I think what is special about this campaign is that it is made up of workers. We are used to working hard. We are moms, we are dads, we are hairdressers and teachers and small business owners. We are warriors, right? We are used to doing it the hard way because nothing has come to us easy. And I know that what we are trying to do is not going to be easy. It's a lot of people who don't want to see it happen. It's a lot of people with a lot of money who don't want to see it happen. But one thing I know is that organized people can win against organized money. That's just a fact. That's how we won the primary. I mean, I'm going to keep saying, I'm not going to stop saying, we unseated a 16-year, 4-term incumbent with an all-volunteer campaign.
It's always won on the ground, Jordan. Every time. If you're going to win, it's won on the ground. Mamdani had 40,000 volunteers. 40,000 volunteers. Same with India Walton. She had not 40,000, but she had a vast amount of volunteers. Cori Bush had a tremendous amount of volunteers after they tried to railroad her and smear her, saying that she had bad credit. And with a bunch of racist slurs, her volunteers piled into her office. But that's what we're up against. That's what but that's the only way to win. But that doesn't mean it's going to be secured, which we'll talk about.
I just want to make a point before we get to the establishment meltdown on Zohran specifically. We've been hearing a lot in recent years from the Democratic Party about democracy. And I've told you flat out, we don't have a functioning democracy. We haven't had a functioning democracy probably since the early 80s, maybe even the 70s. I mean, you got the Princeton study in 2014. We're an oligarchy. We're not a democracy. There are some democratic principles, but economically, we are not a democracy. And we're not even a representative democracy because our representatives don't represent the overwhelming majority will. So we're not a democracy, but they like to feign that they care about and that they want to fight for a democracy. Okay, well, in a democracy, you have something called elections. And in both parties, there's primaries. And what's supposed to happen is you run in the primary, and the winner becomes the nominee of that party, and the loser, for all intents and purposes, goes home. That was told to us that that's supposed to be the way when the left loses. Fall in line, we need unity. But what she said is true. Organized people could beat organized money. But the problem is you need a lot of organized people. She had a historic victory, but it was far less than Zohran Mamdani had. And, timing matters too. 2021, it's 2025 now, and I think the people are even more fed up than they were in 2021. So the fact that she did win, but they took it away from her, they stole it from her, is not democratic. And we were there because we thought it was important to show that. I want to show you another clip. Again, this is years ago, but we have a lot of new subscribers, so they might have never seen this. Part of why we cover these elections, the difference between the India Walton voter and the Byron Brown voter, just like the Mamdani voter and the Cuomo voter, it's a tale of two cities. We drove through Buffalo, like so many cities in America that we cover. Detroit, Flint, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, D.C. I mean, the difference between the nice part of town and parts that look like a third world country, it could be 10 minutes of a drive. Let me show you the difference here. Here in North Buffalo, there's a big write down Byron Brown sign. A nice house across the street there. But another write down Byron Brown sign. Here, elect Mayor Byron Brown, elect Mayor Byron Brown. And the houses are pretty nice, pretty big over here, as opposed to the east side, which is fairly poor, majority black. There's another one. It's behind this tiny little planted tree. Right down Byron Brown. And this is very, 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 it's very similar in other major cities where we go that are highly gentrified. Another right down Byron Brown lawn sign.
Not a single India Walton sign.
Not a single India Walton sign. And why do you think that is? This is North Buffalo, this suburban neighborhood. Pretty wealthy by the size of the homes. And so now we're on the east side of Buffalo. Definitely more impoverished. Majority black. India Walton sign. Less signs in general, but you can see vacant lots. Vacant lots. Vacant lots. Looks pretty similar to parts of Flint, Detroit, Cleveland, Milwaukee. It's definitely not where we just were. 15-minute drive. The streets have, let's just say, a little rougher on the tires. Empty lots. India Walton on this side. With there's a Black Lives Matter sign. Less signs. But when you see signs, it's generally for India Walton. Here's another one. And this part of town, the east side of Buffalo, which is where India Walton is from, more empty. So to be clear, glasses off for emphasis. This is why they're ranting and raving on CNBC. Because they want to keep it just like that. It doesn't matter. Change the city, same story. And it's rural America too, by the way. They want to keep it a tale of two cities. That's what America is, folks. Honestly, it was always that, but it's gotten worse over the last 50 years. That's what they're ranting and raving with no substance underneath it, by the way, about socialism. Oh my God, these people want to make this a communist. They're going to crush it. It's so good for everyone now. Yeah, for everyone on one side of town or in one part of the city. Or if you're in New York City, in parts of the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side. Everyone else is rotting. Pete Buttigieg, it was driving me fucking nuts, Zaina. In 2020, they created this McKinsey pea-brain pencil, McKinsey pea-brain corporatist into like some, hey, he's this new exciting flavor of Kool-Aid. We went to South Bend. What you just saw, and when I say we, I mean Status Coup viewers sent us there because you guys are paying for this reporting. We went there. Literally, all he did was make 5 blocks downtown beautiful. He spent, I think it was $25 million, Zaina. $25 fucking million to add lights to the waterfall downtown so that at night it was lit up in different colors. He made 5 blocks beautiful, and then he left the rest of the city to rot. But not just left the city to rot, he bulldozed 1,000 homes in 1,000 days. Despite what his sycophants and media spin artists, campaign spin artists said, no. This wasn't to make the city better. In Black and Hispanic parts of South Bend, he bulldozed 1,000 homes in 1,000 days. A lot of these homeowners, it's not that they just left their homes to rot. They didn't have the money for repairs, repair the roof, repair the doors, fix the asbestos, whatever it is, and begged the city, even before Buttigieg was mayor, for help. He bulldozed them, and we drove around and just showed, other than beautiful downtown, most of the city is a sea of empty lots. And the media and lawn growing like it's a forest. But the media spun this guy somehow is like, the new JFK. When he didn't beautify South Bend, he destroyed it and beautified parts of downtown. Actually, didn't even give tax cuts, said, hey, if you're a business in Chicago, you could just come here for free to businesses to bring them from Chicago to South Bend. So
the same thing happened in Columbus, Ohio. There's Clintonville, which is a very kind of progressive neighborhood. They've done a ton of remodeling. The homes, went up 4 times, 5 times in value. Clintonville is beautiful. They redid the park there. On the other side of the freeway is the same kind of old shotgun houses and stuff like that, completely in ruin. They were tearing those apart. They were bulldozing them. They were not investing there. That's where the poor people lived, literally across the street. There's a freeway that ran in between. Clintonville is one of the most posh neighborhoods in the country. On the other side of the street, on the other side of the freeway, ruin. No investments there.
So the bottom line is, again, this isn't to toot our own horn, but I will. Do you see anyone else doing this type of reporting on the ground?
No.
Did
anyone else go to North Carolina after the floods and mudslides and actually talk to people? No. Is anyone else still visiting? And we're doing a little bit of a update on this. East Palestine? Nope.
And by the way, when I say anyone else, it's not just that we're going. These trips cost money. It costs us $2 to $3 grand per trip when you're sending a reporter, a cameraman, even for 4 or 5 days. Flights, hotel, rent a car, food. Even if you're like staying at like a shitty hotel, it adds up. Renting a car, the flights, etc. So, and paying freelancers if it's not me or Ashley going places. So that's why we're asking for your support
to stream from there, even for the monthly bill, just to be able to stream from that location.
Do you know how much is costing us now per year to use this live view, which is a monopoly? There's not another provider. To use our broadcasting equipment to go live, it's now like over 12 grand a year. And it's getting more expensive because we go live so much, we keep going past our data plan. But it's cheaper to just pay when we go over the data plan, to pay those fees for going over than to increase our plan to a higher gigabyte, because that's even more expensive, not to get too in the weeds. So that's what we're trying to ask for your support, because if I'm able to one day, I would love to do a documentary, a docu-series just on gentrification in America. But I would call it what it is, because gentrification, people's eyes close over. I call it what it is: economic terrorism. This is economic terrorism. They are literally stealing and killing certain parts of town so that wealthier people could live in a nice 5 to 10 block radius. And they are purchasing the government to do it. You know, these people railing about socialism and community-owned grocery stores and free buses, and we're about to get to the clips, so get your popcorn. It's very entertaining. They have nothing to say about real estate developers literally buying off city council people, buying off the mayor in cities like New York, in D.C., I'm sure in Louisville, Kentucky.
And I want to respond to one comment. They're like, Brendo Sapien is like, you just use StreamYard, just stream to StreamYard. We have to be able to stream from our camera and to be able to pipe in the audio. There's a lot more to
I don't think you get it. StreamYard is not a platform where you could go live like on the ground. StreamYard is a platform where you can do what we're doing now, which is just like me from my home, Zaina from hers, but to go live, like on the ground from a big Bernie rally or a big political rally or a big protest, you need like a mobile satellite device, basically. So cable news outlets, they're starting to use LiveView too, but in a lot of cases, they have a satellite truck, which is like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and there's a big satellite on top of it. But for other outlets, you need what is called basically LiveView. So it's like a backpack, and it has basically Wi-Fi connection devices. So in ours, we have a connector to AT&T, you have a connector to Verizon, a connector to T-Mobile, and one other, I forget. Because in different parts of the country and different cities, they use Verizon more than AT&T. So you want as many as you can. So you need strong Wi-Fi connection to go live where it looks good, the audio is good, it's not stopping and starting. I mean, if you're at a rally with 25,000 people, it doesn't matter how good your live view is, and everyone's using their phones, it's going to be choppy at points. Unless you have
and literally, police will sometimes use transmission disruptor.
Oh, we've had that where they jam your signal. I remember we were covering a thing in Newark a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, there's only like 50 protesters here. Why is it so choppy? And then John was like, yeah, I think they're jamming the signal outside the courthouse. So
we have to be able to have the tools to report, and we're not a mainstream outlet. So everything that we utilize is paid for by you guys, by the supporters, and there's just a lot more to it than you realize. So that's why we got into that just a little bit, just so that you understand what we're budgeting it for. We're not, having like steak and lobster dinners every night.
and just so you know, folks, back in the day, 2018, when we launched this thing, little old Jordan, out of his own pocket, purchased our original LiveView. Back then, it was only $1,500 because we got the lowest level LiveView. I got it out of my money, and there wasn't a lot of it. But if I wasn't going to pay, we didn't have any money at that point, so I bought it so we could go live. Now we have the top of the line one, which was like $25,000 just to buy it. So anyway, that's in the weeds, but that's why we're asking for your support. StatusCoup.com/join. As much as I love our friends in independent media, the ones that are actually independent, let's be real, they're sitting in a studio or they're home. They don't have a massive overhead. Our overhead straight up right now is ranging between $20,000 and $25,000 a month between salaries, fixed costs like this LiveView, paying freelancers like Zaina. There's so many fixed costs. It's insane. I just got a bill for $2,500 for our liability insurance because as a media outlet, we need insurance. They call it errors and omissions insurance. So Trump is trying to sue media companies now. That's what it's for. So you could defend yourself if you're sued for defamation, whatever. Last year, I think it was like $1,600. It has now shot up to $2,500. There's so many things you don't know about, and we do not send out fundraising emails every day like a lot of other outlets. I could if I wanted to, but I find it annoying when I get them, and I don't think it's as effective as just asking you in real time, hey, here's what we're doing. We're walking the walk. We're not talking, we're walking the walk. So please support us. All right, Zaina, let's have a little fun here.
All right.
Let's get to the reaction to, I don't even think he's really a socialist, but whatever. let's get to some of the reactions here. First,
He's ballsy enough to call himself one. So that's.
I know, but his policy is he'd be considered center left in most European countries. Anyway, Fox News with their friend Mayor Eric Adams.
Mr. Mayor, it's not just defund the police. This candidate, Democratic Socialist, he wants to freeze the rent. He wants city-run grocery stores, social workers to replace the police because that's going to help. He wants $60 billion of debt fund for affordable housing. He wants free buses, no cost for childcare, baby baskets for newborn, and a $30 minimum wage. How can someone vote for this?
He's a snake oil salesman. Mm-hmm. He will say and do anything to get elected. Think about this for a moment. He wants to raise 1%. He wants to raise tax on 1% of New Yorkers' high-income earners. As the mayor, you don't have the authority to do that. You know who has the authority to do that? An assemblyman, which he is. He wants to do free buses. He could have done it at assemblyman. He doesn't understand the power of government and how you must making sure you improve your economy, raise the standard of living, and this is what we've done in the city. And I'm looking forward to.
How could you vote for this?
Someone a snake oil salesman is beyond parody.
So, first of all, he's wrong. You can't, as an assembly member, raise corporate tax rates. The governor of the state has to approve those things. The corporate purchase governor, Kathy Hochul, has already said she will not. So that's why I wrote a Substack piece earlier this week, and also subscribe to our Substack. You could do that for free. We're trying to grow there too. I wrote a Substack piece earlier this week making the point that I think a lot of progressives, it's hard. We're all, working and busy with our lives. They think that the finish line is get them elected. And they don't realize that we need to shift our thinking to 24/7 organizing. Because remember, back when we thought, a lot of us got hoodwinked, me included, that Obama was a progressive, Obama created the biggest digital army at that time in history. He got elected. He left his digital army of volunteers on the White House lawn. He could have used them to go after the banks, to pressure for real financial reform, to shame the Democratic Party, which had a damn near supermajority at that time, to do real financial reform and hold Wall Street accountable. He didn't use them. Bernie, 2016, created an army, 400,000 volunteers. 400,000 volunteers. He loses? Yeah, they started our revolution, but they didn't really continue utilizing that digital volunteering army. You started Justice Democrats. Bernie's campaign, they didn't utilize their massive, keep them engaged to continue to fight for Medicare for all in a aggressive way, to fight for his policies. Then in 2018, AOC wins. She had a smaller army on the local level, but she had a massive volunteer army. Other than the first thing she did, which I liked, which was going to Pelosi's office with the Sunrise people and protesting. After that, she fell in line. She didn't utilize her volunteer army to keep the pressure on. You have to really. Elections are one half of the fight. Then you got to fight to get what you want through government. Bernie infamously said, no, if I get elected, the first thing I'm doing isn't going to sit there and try to compromise with Mitch McConnell. I'm going to say, Mitch, look outside the window at my army. Peaceful army. We're going to vote all of you out. We're going to pressure all of you. So that's what Mamdani and his supporters have to consider. If Mamdani wins, the only way you get the increase on corporate taxes, the increase on the wealthy, is pressuring the governor, because she has to sign off on it. The only way
pressure everyone else, and you got to utilize, like you said, your volunteer base to do that. And being unwilling to do that is part of the reason why nothing got passed. Sorry, my cat. Cat decided to get behind my computer.
By the way, just to give you the numbers, in 2020, when Bernie was close, his Bernie campaign Slack channel, their digital Slack channel, had more members in it than the Democratic Socialists of America nationally.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact number, but his Slack channel of his campaign with volunteers, they had more than the one of the top progressive groups in America. What did Bernie do after? Instead of keeping his army, his digital army, engaged to pressure Biden to get more in the COVID relief bill, to pressure and shame Manchin and Sinema, to actually go after Biden for moving off a $15 minimum wage, abandoning a public option. He called, hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friend Joe. I know, because I was talking to people that were in the Slack channel, like, yeah, they just kind of did nothing with it.
They just let everyone fall. They didn't push him. And that's what I was worried about with the whole take on the oligarchy tour. Hundreds of thousands of people showed up overall. But where is that energy getting funneled? What is the ask? What are we asking people to do other than just vote Dem in the midterms?
Right.
Because that's a long ways off. That's still another year and a half to go under the current policies.
And of course, Zaina, we're all human, right? So I haven't directly engaged in campaigning because I'm a journalist and I wouldn't. That's a conflict. But I get it. If you volunteer, and you win, there's a bit of an exhaustion factor. You need a break. I'm not saying 24/7 work your full-time job and then 24/7 organize. Everyone needs a break, and everyone needs a break for mental health and things like that. But the real work after an upset victory is the governing, because then you're not up against the candidate and super PACs. You're up against the entire corporate complex. You're up against the entire United Corporation. If Mamdani wins, he's up against Wall Street. He's up against the real estate lobby in New York City. He's up against the think tanks. He's up against all the local news. He's up against Albany, which is the Democratic establishment. He's up against the Bloombergs, all of them. So
I saw candidates win, Jordan, and be polling well. We had Zach Ringelstein running for Senate in Maine, for instance. And the Democratic Party came to him after he won. He was polling at around 65%. So he's polling high. Come to him and say, you got to pay us $250,000 because you got to pay your quote unquote dues as a candidate to prove your loyalty to the Democratic Party. And then he's like, we don't have that, and I'm not paying you that, but you need to get behind me because we can actually unseat this Republican who's been sitting, in this seat for far too long. They the Democratic Party leadership printed off the materials for the state, and where it said senator, it said non-applicable. They just left him off the materials completely. And then I saw AOC. She talked about how she's raised $9 million in a quarter about a month ago. And then her comms person said, we've already paid the $250,000 in dues too. And it's like, that's not a bragging point. It's not a bragging point, because I will tell you, and how many races did we cover? We just talked about India Walton. How many races did we cover where Democrats won? I'm talking about Lindsey Fagan and Adrian Bell in Texas, won their primaries, won with sweeping numbers, and then the Democratic establishment actually worked against Lindsey Fagan. She only lost by a fraction of a point. They could have unseated a Republican, but instead chose to work against her because she was left-leaning candidate.
I could bring up one that well, Miss Paula Jean Swearingen. Won the Democratic nomination in West Virginia, a working class mother, a working class coal mining family, single mother. She couldn't even get Democratic Party to allow her to come to union halls and speak as the Democratic nominee. And this is a great point. Shama Sawant infamously used her volunteers in Socialist Alternative. She wouldn't have got $15 minimum wage in Seattle, another fucking corporate capitalist. Would not have got that done without her volunteers. She would not have got the Amazon tax. None of that without a massive pressure campaign. Thank you very much. Anamir 7631 gifted a membership. We're a little slow today on the memberships.
We will be reading the super chats in just a little bit, so we will be getting to those. We're not neglecting super chats. So if you guys send those in, we will be answering any questions and reading those in just a bit.
So please sign up. Please sign up. All right, let's show also. Andrea Mitchell, I did a video on this earlier this week, but I wanted your thoughts. Corporate dinosaur, wife of Alan Greenspan. She on Morning Joe. Go to socialist.
One of the things that I would question is whether this goes completely counter to the Democratic narrative that they had to move to the center for 2026 for the midterms, and whether someone with a socialist label can exist outside of New York City, and also how is this going forward? You know, how will other ethnic groups be energized or not energized by some of his past statements? I mean, he's got all of the excitement that the Democrats have been lacking. He showed up. He knew exactly how to hit all of the social media, and Andrew Cuomo didn't.
With all respect, I think that is this kind of fear of a socialist label is 20th century thinking. There are clearly a new generation of Americans who are not afraid of Cold War bunkers, who understand that what he's really talking about is social democracy, as it's called in many other countries, which is basically we can have nice things, and that only rich people shouldn't have nice things. Nice things could actually be for everybody, as is the case in many places in the world. That is basically the idea that is rising here.
I.e., with all due respect, you're a fucking dinosaur.
Why do they keep rolling Anand back out to push centrism every time? I mean, he was out in full force in 2018 and 2020. This guy.
Well, in this case, I agree with what he's saying. He's saying, yeah, stop with the socialism boogeyman. Like, it's, Yeah,
he's right this time. It's interesting, and he will be till he starts to shift, people.
And now let's get to the fun stuff. Here's Jim Cramer, literally afraid that Mayor Mamdani will shoot him and his wealthy friends.
It is not the closing of a steakhouse that David Zaslav likes to, and you like to go to. Well, you and I have had dinner there a few times.
Yes. And you and I are going to recreate that place.
The rent's too high. You know what? The new mayor, potentially, of New York is going to freeze the rents, and everybody eats for free, so they don't have to worry.
Really?
Yeah.
But how about the rich?
No.
Do they get shot?
No, yes. They get taken away.
Are we kulaks?
Yes, they get taken away.
Lennon
We have to go.
in 23?
We have to leave now. But everybody else, there he is. Mamdani.
Maybe he's more moderate
winning
than we
the
think.
Democratic primary for mayor and potentially successor of Eric Adams. That said, there's still a general election to come here in New York. By the way, of course, we're here, we talk about it, but we are talking about a $2 trillion economy. It's not nothing.
It is.
We have to leave. We won't get our steak dinner. Oh my Lord, at our favorite restaurant that only a fraction, very small percentage of New Yorkers can afford.
You know what I find so interesting? And honestly, Zaina, I would personally pay money. I would personally pay money to have a Sunday show host or a CNN host ask any politician. And I don't think they would even take my money. Not that I have much of it, but why is it giving free stuff? Why is it considered giving free stuff like free busing, a free bus, which, I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, it was damn near free in New York City for the bus. Why is it free stuff? Freezing the rent for a small fraction of apartment owners or homeowners in New York City, just rent stabilized public housing. Why is that considered free stuff? But a big, beautiful bill that gives nearly $300,000. Think of that. $300,000 in tax cuts, i.e. free money. Why is one free money and tyranny, but the other one, that's just the price of doing business in America? Riddle me that, Zaina. Because it seems to me
they don't care. They're sitting pretty.
It seems to me one, free money actually helps the majority of consumers, right? You want to talk about an economy. In quantity, the policies he's proposing and Bernie proposed would help the most amount of consumers. Because we live in a capitalist country, so we don't view people as humans. We view them as consumers.
And that also helps the economy. It helps the economy when you help the poor.
But that's the thing. That's the secret. The economy to them is not everyone helping the most amount of people. It's the cocktail party, the DNC shareholders, the DNC Christmas party, the people flocking to Jeff Bezos' wedding right now in Venice, including, by the way, Oprah and
the
Tom Brady.
Build-A-Burgers.
Yes, because it's a mega wedding in Venice right now for Jeff Bezos and who I don't know who he's Lauren Sanchez, I think is her name. So apparently it's socialism, tyranny, and free universal child care, which he's proposing, free buses, free grocery stores, government-owned grocery stores. That's tyranny and that's socialism, but massive blowjobs to the rich in the form of tax cuts, that's just capitalism.
Oh, co-op grocery stores. How scary. Worker-owned grocery stores. Terrifying. I have one down the street. It's called IGA, and it is a Southern co-op. And yeah, prices are a little bit more expensive there, but people are paid well. And it is a co-op grocery store that also sells local produce. This happens. Their whole boogeyman about social workers, filling in some of the slots of police. Andy Bashir's already done that. In Kentucky, he said, we're going to raise the budget for police. And everyone was like, oh. And then he raised it to bring in social workers to handle domestic violence issues, to handle, child abuse situations, to handle things that maybe the police shouldn't be showing up for a mental health crisis anyway. And it should be social workers working with the police in instances like this. And it's improved. It's improved our situation here drastically. So these things have been done before. It's not some outrageously new idea. A lot of the things that he's proposing were part of the New Deal initiatives rolled out by FDR. And they're acting like it's some new, crazy, that it's just straight up Stalinist communism, which is absolutely, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous assumption.
And by the way, if you had free buses, and I would go further and say free subways, because in New York City, I don't live there anymore, but when I did, it was almost $3 per subway ride. Okay. If you had free subway, free buses, you think those people are going to just put the money they save under the pillow? Or do you think maybe they'll go out to dinner one more night a week? Or maybe they'll spend it. Most working class people don't have the luxury of saving the money, so they spend it back into the economy. So it's still circulating. The only difference is it's circulating in a more egalitarian way rather than being consolidated all towards the aristocrats. I want to show you also, this was just heinous.
The challenges he will have now is that you have New York Times saying he's not qualified. You're going to a broader base of voters. And will some of the older voters, even in the Black community and Latino community, come out and vote for him when you have Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, on the ballot, who still has a strong base in the Black community and in some of these communities? And what happens with Jewish voters, where Mamdani, right or wrong, has been called anti-Semitic? So it's going to be a very interesting fall election. I think he made history last night. The question is whether or not it can stick with a general election. And when knowing Eric Adams the way I do, I think Eric Adams would want this fight more than he would have wanted against Andrew Cuomo.
Well, listen, I think we're going to hear more, Rev, about him saying that some people who say they need to globalize the intifada is not a bad thing, is not anti-Semitic. I think we're going to be hearing an awful lot more about that. We're going to be hearing about his economic plans, a socialist in New York. There's going to be, I think we're going to have a very competitive, interesting general election.
So, I don't have enough time to play more about clips with ranting about he's anti-Semitic, he's this and that, because he basically gave a nuanced answer to what globalized the Intifada means. Because the Intifada, yes, there is violent form of Intifada, but there's the actual meaning, I believe, means rise or something like that.
Right. It just means rise. It means revolution. It means standing up for yourself.
And also, he has spoken out against Hamas and those things, which some people don't like, but he's been very clear that he's not supporting violent intifada or anything like that. But again, this is what they did to Nina Turner with AIPAC. They made her an anti-Semite for the crime of speaking out. This was before October 7th and this genocide. For her speaking out about, in favor of Palestinian rights. They did this to Cori Bush. They APAC the hell out of her. Jamal Bowman, Jessica Cisneros down in Texas. The list goes on. But the reality is most people in New York City, they're not waking up and the first thing on their mind is Israel.
And I think that freaks out the lobbies. We told you. We told you so. How many times on Status Coup have we said that this march toward the right is not how the Democratic Party wins if they want to win? We're not taking sides here, and we're not saying, we blindly support the Democratic Party or anything, but we have said time and again that this whole Ezra Klein abundance theory BS, we have to run centrist, we have to, dig up Reagan and pull him out and become Reaganite Democrats is going to win. No, rehabilitating Dick Cheney. We called it, Jordan. We said this is going to be one of the reasons that she loses. Did we not? Did we not? We called it. And we have said time and again, this is how you lose. This is how you lose. And the only reason that they say this bullshit is because they're placating to their big dollar donors. They know these policies because we're on the ground talking to people about these policies from all different political bents, that tuition-free colleges is popular. It used to be subsidized at 85% till they gutted it during the Clinton and Bush and Obama administrations. It used to be nearly free for boomers to go to college. We used to have healthcare clinics people could go to and be seen for almost everything before the ACA privatized our healthcare system completely. We used to have these things. It is not like those weren't in place. They have been gutted. And people see the difference, and people want to be able to own homes. They want to be able to start a small business. They want to be able to be self-sufficient. They want good jobs. They need healthcare desperately. These are popular policies. This centrist bullshit neocon agenda that the Democrats are pushing is not how they win. They lose. They lose every time, and they'll lose ground to Republicans because people will not show up to vote. And Zohran Mamdani proved that. And that's freaking out the establishment because their whole line for what? Since Kamala lost is we were too woke under Kamala, who wanted the same ICE policies almost as what we're seeing now, who wanted austerity politics. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We told you so. We told you.
It's ironic. After Kamala lost, you had the DNC. What was it? They wanted to spend $20 million for a study on how to reach young men. A study on how to reach $20 million. A study on how to reach young men. And there were terms like better syntax and shit like that. He brought out a shit ton of young men. It's actually a lot of the young men were voting for Trump because Trump went on the Bro podcast and, spewed his fake populism. And Kamala didn't go on those shows. But also, when you're economically desperate or economically stuck, and there's not a message to you about economic hope and economic policies, you get more sucked into this culture war bullshit. But what was his message? He wasn't running on woke cultural stuff. He's running on the rent is too damn high, basically. But I want to show you this also because this is the benefit of having paid supporters, having paid members. Hint, hint. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join. Ashley, our reporter that I was able to hire a few months ago because you guys are supporting us, she called me the other day. Hey, there's a protest that just popped up outside Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's office, another corporate Democrat asshole, because she, I guess, went on a rant on a radio show. She didn't straight up basically say, fuck him, he's Muslim, but basically, for lack of a better word, said a lot of really Islamophobic stuff. And, went a step further, basically saying, essentially saying it seems like he supports jihad. So a protest popped up outside of her office, and Ashley said, hey, I'm going to run over there. Let me show you a clip from that where she interviewed a local assembly member loudly speaking out against Gillibrand's Islamophobia.
All we have heard for many years now is vote blue no matter who, and then suddenly there's someone in office who, really has strong economic policies, and then that seems to not matter. And also, those of us who have voted third party have been chastised for years about how it's our fault that Trump got in office. But now Cuomo is going to be, at this moment anyway, seems to maybe be running third party. Eric Adams is going to be running as an independent. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that they have any support whatsoever at this point, given that history of, again, vote blue no matter who, and definitely don't ever vote.
Well, you know, this really recalls to me not the racism and the things that were said on Brian Lair, but this vote blue no matter who situation. Being suddenly not the case when it's a left politician really is an echo of the mayoral race that happened in Buffalo, where the popular candidate was a Democratic socialist, and there was massive organizing with Republicans to make sure that she didn't become the mayor. And I think it is really imperative right now for those of us who voted for Zohran and for those of us who are politically engaged, and even just those of us who are scared of Trump's America, that we stick together and we pay attention and we make sure that what happens is not something like that. Zohran worked extremely hard and walked all across this city, went to neighborhoods where people had not gone for decades, and actually connected with those communities, and those communities deserve their voices to be heard. And we cannot let this vote and this opportunity be stolen from us.
Stolen from us. I couldn't have put it better. That is the value of on-the-ground, independent reporting. CNN was not there, and that's not far from CNN's building.
Yeah.
MSNBC certainly wasn't there. The New York Times was not there. Status Coup is on the ground when it's popular and when it's not, okay? Because we cover what the corporate media covers up. Once again, we cover what the corporate media covers up, and they are trying to steal this from Mamdani. I don't know if he's going to follow through on everything he says he's going to try. He's going to need, for the reasons we outlined, he's going to need his organizing army behind him to get that corporate tax increase.
Because they're going to want to try to prove that this is a failing strategy, that people don't want this. They're going to want to try to push their lie that they pushed to us in 2018, that they pushed to us when they kept pushing Bernie out. The same lie. The same lie. So they're going to try to kneecap him as much as they possibly can.
But the goal, and why we're asking you to support us financially, and update, we've gotten 15 new members so far during this stream. We got to do better than that, folks. So if you're on the fence, get off that fence. StatusCoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as 16 cents a day. That's $5 a month. And by the way, as a member, you get great perks. If you join up through our website, StatusCoup.com/join, we do a monthly members call for members.
Those
We're
are
doing
fun.
Yeah, I think we're going to do that later this week. If my newborn would stay asleep. We also, you get merchandise discounts as a website member. We also do behind the scenes video content for our members. And we're kind of toying with a few other ideas. We're trying to get people to sign up to our website. So website members will get better perks than others. Because again, we don't want to be overly reliant on YouTube. We don't want the majority of our members on YouTube. Because what happens if YouTube nukes us? What happens if we get demonetized on YouTube? What happens if YouTube for one day, for whatever reason, says whatever their bullshit policy they say we broke and we get kicked off? Well, there goes our ability to keep the lights on because we had all our members.
The policy is they try to wheel in more and more control over what you guys see and what you guys hear.
So that's why it's super important. If you want to be an independent outlet and especially do on-the-ground reporting, we need control of our paid members, not to control you, but of the revenue. We need it through our website rather than YouTube. Okay. So before we move on, I want to show this also because this was just, this was something. Let's show you. I think this is,
He ran a great campaign. He understands that the way that you connect with voters today is short form video.
Give away free stuff.
It's TikTok. Yeah. But you know, it's funny. Even that there's two issues that New Yorkers tend to care about.
Republicans do that too now.
If you look at the data, right? It's quality of life and it's affordability. And he ran a campaign on affordability where none of the things he promised can happen realistically in the way that he promised them. But in terms of an issue that resonated with voters, he found that.
We know what happens when you stop. How many people are in New York City?
8.5 million.
450,000 elect a mayor. Yeah. Can we do it some type of electoral college? Or is it too late to do something?
So if you guys remember, I don't know if it was the last time I was on, but not too long ago, I came on to talk about mobile voting, and out of my foundation, I've been building technology that we're going to put up.
Now they want to change the election to make it an electoral college in New York City.
They're like, how can we get it to where only rich people can vote?
Because their corporate candidate didn't win. Now they just want to say, that democracy thing, just kidding. Let's do an electoral college in the fall. Don't ever say to me anything about unity, fall in line, don't waste your vote. I don't want to fucking hear another thing. It's outrageous. And you might say, Jordan, who cares? It's CNBC. Well, they're all basically doing it. And to be clear, it is not a guarantee he's going to win. They are going to throw everything possible at him.
They're going to do ballot challenges. They're going to do court litigation. They're going to smear him with everything they can possibly smear him with. Yeah, it's going to get dirty.
They're going to go through every tweet, every video. They're going to make him sound like, the Antichrist. So they're going to do a lot of Islamophobia. And I'm sure, they might even try to run other people other than Eric Adams that might be more palatable, that are more like centrist moderate, and just throw Eric Adams overboard. So to the people who helped him get elected, congrats. Enjoy the weekend. Get back to work if I were you, because it's going to take a lot. It shouldn't be this way, because if you win the primary, you should be the nominee. And, in a city like New York, the Democratic nominee typically wins. So we shall see. Real quick, before we move on to our next topic, a personal ask. Obviously, we want, we're trying to get people to sign up as paying members. I don't know, for you Status Coup viewers, a few years ago, you might remember this story. We did a story about an Amazon worker who, at the height of COVID, they had this poor woman doing COVID testing. Not a nurse, not a doctor, just a regular worker. 38-year-old black woman. Her name was Pashawn Brown, a single mother. And at 38 years old, she dropped dead. Amazon would not pay for an autopsy to find out if she died of COVID. But she didn't have any underlying health problems. She just felt sick, called her sister, who was her best friend, said, I have a headache one night, woke up the next morning, still didn't feel well, cooked her daughter breakfast, went back to bed, and she never woke up. Her name was Pashawn Brown. Let me show you a clip from our on-the-ground coverage. Again, we were on the ground covering the Amazon organizing campaign. Here is her sister, Christina Brown.
My name is Christina, and my sister was Pashawn Brown, and this is her daughter, Gabby. My sister worked for Amazon since 2018. We both actually worked there, and we started off as drivers. I'm going to keep it brief because it's a long story. We started off as drivers, so we were driving for Amazon, and we got treated like shit. We had filled out an application for the warehouse. It was my sister's full-time job, but it was my part-time because I was trying to put my son through college. And we filled out the application. We started off as drivers. I mean, it was an accident. They asked me if I could. My sister fell down the stairs in Baltimore. And they were like, well, if you're okay, you can call us and you can keep going. And with me, I was like 2.3 miles away from delivering my last 3 packages. They were like, well, we got your location. Can you just finish delivering the packages? And I said, no, I'm scared. It's ice, and I'm going home. And I told my sister the next day, I was like, that's it, we're done. Then 2 days later, we got the email stating that we got the position for the warehouse. So we were like, okay, let's go to the warehouse. This is going to be different. Maybe they just treat the drivers like shit. When we got to that warehouse, oh my God, we had no clue. Everybody at Amazon gets treated like shit. Everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a driver, if you're a stocker, if you're a picker, if you're a stower, even if you're the cleaning crew, you get treated like shit. Everybody at Amazon gets treated like shit. And that's how we started off at Amazon. When the pandemic came, it was a lot going on. My sister came in every single day. She was so fearless. She came in every day. She worked for Amazon. She worked for them for 4 years. She was not a fly-by-night employee. She did every shift in that warehouse. She started off as a night sorter, picking, stowing, 4 a.m. shift, 9 a.m. to 4:45 shift, the 9 to 7 shift. My sister worked at every shift in that warehouse. And the sad part about it is, I don't know if Jeff Bezos knows, my sister loved working for your fucking company. She loved working for your fucking company. My sister worked for your company until the day that she died. And when she told me in October that she was going to start COVID testing, I asked her why. Well, with bonuses and this and that, bonuses never fucking came. They never came. My sister started COVID testing, working in the COVID testing department in October until January, until the day she died. She worked from 9 to 7, Monday through Thursday, COVID testing Amazon employees. First it was just Amazon employees, and then they started COVID testing the drivers. My sister tested anywhere between 5 to 10 people a day for COVID testing, not knowing if they're negative, positive, or anything. And let's keep in mind that she's not a doctor nor a nurse, okay? She was trained by another Amazon employee to do COVID testing on other employees.
Long story short, they did not give, and this was during the worst of COVID, that they had untrained, not nurses, not doctors, swabbing other workers. They didn't give them full PPE. They didn't give them shields. They barely had barriers for them to test. I don't know if she died of COVID, but she was 38. She didn't have any serious health problems. She just dropped dead. Amazon would not help the family pay for an autopsy. I wonder why. And all they did was offer her daughter, who she left behind, who was standing there, Gabby, I think 2 months of counseling. Gabby, her daughter, was 12 when her mom, Pashan, died. Now she's 16. She text messaged me the other day, or a couple days ago. I wasn't aware, but apparently Christina, who was Pashan's sister and was speaking there, and has taken over as Gabby, not her mother, Pashan was her mother, but taken over as her guardian and is raising her after her mother, who Amazon had COVID testing. Amazon, $1 trillion company who could have hired an army of doctors to do the testing.
With proper gear, proper equipment. Yeah.
With proper gear. Had poor people, poor workers who they promised bonuses and didn't give it to. And by the way, I was one of the only outlets that reported on this. And they told me when CNBC and corporate outlets reached out, they told Pashan's sister, Christina, told them the same thing that they told me. I was the only one who reported it. These corporate hacks never reported it. They just reached out to Amazon. Amazon did to them what they tried to do to me. Amazon said, hey, I'll talk to you off the record. I said, go fuck yourself. I'm not talking to you off the record. Tell me what I want to know. Because I got other workers at Amazon to confirm this story. I got other sources to confirm, yeah, they had her testing other workers, and a lot of other people, a lot of other workers were recklessly asked and made to do the COVID testing in pretty small rooms, by the way. And that's how COVID spread, even worse, in more packed rooms. And all they had was a little flimsy little, like they had in restaurants, those flimsy little dividers that didn't do much. Anyway, when it rains, it pours. Gabby has now lost her mother, and Christina was hospitalized recently. I don't know the full story. They believe she might have gotten E. coli, which obviously could be deadly. She was in a coma for a while. Fortunately, she is doing a little better now, but she's still in the hospital. These are working people. They have almost been evicted. She was almost evicted from her apartment because she's been in the hospital for months. Christina, Pashan's sister, who, by the way, has made it her life's mission to keep Pashawn Brown's name out there, which the media never covered, and we're the only ones that covered it. There was a couple other smaller outlets, but by and large, we stayed on it. So I won't get into details. I made sure that they weren't going to lose their house. I'll just leave it at that. But they need help. She needs help. She's in the hospital. She's been in the hospital for months, and they're really struggling. So, I have a lot of people that ask me for help and to promote their GoFundMe and all this. To tell you the truth, I don't do it a lot because I don't have the time to vet every single GoFundMe and every single example. And in the past, there's been a few times when I, promoted something and it ended up not being what I thought it was. But I want to promote this GoFundMe because I know them. I know Christina. And you know what? The bottom line is we're all in this together, folks. So if all you could do is give a couple bucks, and I just put the link in the super chat. If all you could do is give a couple bucks to help them out, she literally took over parenting, and Christina has her own kids. She took over parenting for her sister's 12-year-old daughter at the time. She's now 16, and now she's sick. And when she got to the hospital, they told her she had sepsis, which is you could die. So she's in the hospital, and I'm just trying to help them out. So anything you could do, I think their goal of their GoFundMe is to raise $7,500. They've only raised $385. I've given them, I won't get into details, but I've helped them a little bit. But we need a lot more help to get them to their goals. So if anything you could do, whether it's $5, more than that, the GoFundMe link is in the super chat. I'm going to put it in the description too. And obviously, I wish we could help everyone, but I have a problem with the richest fucking company on earth, or one of them, killing its workers, whether she had COVID or not. I don't know if she had COVID, but they certainly could have given her a bonus. They certainly could have given her the proper protection gear so that she was protected from the risk of testing workers. They certainly could have helped the family pay for an autopsy. They certainly could have provided
done a lot more for the family. That's absolutely right.
They certainly could have provided way more than, I think it was 3 months of counseling for her daughter. And now, the family's struggling because Christina, who took over parenting for Gabby, is now sick. So whatever you could do, the GoFundMe link is there. Your thoughts, Zaina, before we move on.
Help them out if you can. It's we're going to have to pull more and more to help each other because it's all we've got.
Amen. Amen. All right. I'm going to stay as long as my wife will allow me to, and then Zaina's going to take it from here. We got to move on to the increasing ICE reign of terror. I don't say that dramatically. What we are seeing with the ICE Gestapo, and that's what it is. I mean, you don't even see this in like horror movies, what they're doing to people. This is not being done to get rid of criminals. I think there's been stats out there. Ken Klippenstein had a piece recently that like a very, very tiny small percentage of the actual people that they're deporting are criminals. Let me get the actual stat here. Out of every three undocumented, one out of every three undocumented detained have no criminal history. 1 out of 3. And by the way, that's not even pointing out the ones that do have criminal history. A lot of that is nonviolent.
It's things like running a stoplight or even, clerical errors sometimes where they're literally going to court to fix some documentation that needs to be fixed, and they're arresting them before they can even have their court hearing in the lobby of the freaking courthouse.
It's just crazy. So 1 second. I just want to put the GoFundMe that I just referenced in the description for you folks. So really, really appreciate anyone that could support Christina and Gabby, because in reality, if you donate, you're doing it in honor also of Bashan Brown's memory. And we also have a playlist if you want to click on playlists under our YouTube. If you don't know the story, it was just a horrible story. And if I write a book one day on the media, which I'd love to, Zaina, that would be one of the chapters, because I literally had it out with some reporters behind the scenes.
I remember
Shaming them that they wouldn't cover this because they confirmed what I reported, that Amazon had COVID workers, untrained. They're not nurses. They're not doctors. Just willy-nilly putting swabs up workers with barely any PPE, promised them bonuses, never gave it to them, putting their lives at risk because they're too cheap to hire doctors and nurses. I mean, Amazon could have created an outdoor tent city to do some of the best corporate COVID testing out there and led by example. Instead, they basically use their workers as guinea pigs. So please donate if you can. If you say, Jordan, what do you want me to do today? Become a member or donate? Donate. If that's all you can do, donate to them. All right. I want to show you this because this is like, I did a video on it earlier this week. It's just crazy. You almost think like this is The Onion. They are now creating an ICE detention prison in somewhere that's called Alligator Alley in Florida, because there's alligators everywhere. My car broke down there once because I went to school in Tampa, and on my drive back from Miami, my car broke down in Alligator Alley. Fortunately, I didn't get attacked by any alligators, but it took 2 hours for AAA to come, and it was fucking hot. This is where they are.
They're just even, in those swamplands, even with just mosquitoes and other wildlife, let alone the alligators. Yeah.
Let's take a look at this report and realize that this is literally real life. What's going on?
Undocumented migrants.
People get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide.
Right now, the area is used as a pilot training facility, and as you heard, it's surrounded by pythons and alligators. Florida Attorney General James Uthmeier says the facility would sit on the already constructed runway and would hold more than 1,000 beds and is surrounded by the Everglades, though it is not part of the Everglades National Park. Still, many are slamming the idea, citing environmental concerns.
This site is really important to Friends of the Everglades. It's actually the reason Friends of the Everglades was founded by Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in 1969 to stop what would have been the world's largest airport from being built right there. We call on the governor to put a stop to this proposal right now. It's a terribly bad idea.
Officials haven't shared the projected cost of the project, but say it could be operational within 30 to 60 days after construction.
Now let's show you the king of the free state of Florida, Ron DeSantis. He did a little, I don't know what you would call this, propaganda tour for Fox News of this proposed camp.
So, I mean, this is going to be, illegals will come in, they'll be processed, there'll be places for them to be housed, you'll have an ability for food, you'll have an ability for them to consult legal rights if they have that, because there is a process that's involved with this. So this is really everything. This is going to be a self-contained little area. And then, of course, you also have stuff for the staff that work here. So we've got laundry facilities, we've got showers, we've got, obviously, there you see the shower and bath facilities.
Yep, right there.
Yep.
Where do you go to get a bunch of bathrooms like that?
Well, so this is being done by the Division of Emergency.
What intrepid journalism from Fox News. Where do you get the bathrooms? Not, isn't it a little too hot out here to have an open air tent prison? The humidity, when you factor in humidity in July and August, it could get up to 115, 120 degrees.
It gives me, they had swimming pools at Auschwitz vibes. It does. Oh, you put bathrooms up for them? How humane. This is, wow, you got bathrooms up this quick. How did you do that? And, the Department of Homeland Security put out a meme just before we got on today of alligators wearing like a really crappy CGI meme on Twitter with like alligators wearing ice hats.
Yeah, I mean, it's just beyond the pale. And I want to ask MAGA, because I really don't understand the thought process. Like, you actually think this is going to make your country better by essentially entrapping undocumented immigrants surrounded by alligators and pythons? That's what gives you your chuckles?
Children are going to be sent here. This is a family detention center.
Because, you know, if you ask me, that's where Jamie Dimon and the crooks that tanked the global economy and led to the foreclosures on millions of working people, they didn't get sent to Alcatraz. They got their bonuses. The fossil fuel CEOs that illegally spill their crude oil pipelines into massive waterways, the air, kill our animals with their oil, they get invited to the State of the Union and the inauguration. They don't get put in alligator swamp prisons. I mean, I could go down the list. The Sackler family that killed hundreds of thousands of Americans with OxyContin. They paid a settlement. They're still living in their mansions. If I'm forgetting anyone, big tech illegally sells our private data. Elon Musk and his Doge army literally just stole our data, our social security information, and God knows what else.
A president with 48 felony accounts.
January 6th rioters, they get out. But undocumented immigrants, which, by the way, it's not a criminal offense. It's supposed to be a misdemeanor. They're going to be put in an outdoor prison camp surrounded by alligators. And we already know, because we've covered it on the ground. Again, support us, statuscoup.com/join. We've covered the ICE prison in New Jersey, which is not surrounded by alligators, even though the politicians are pretty corrupt. Is not surrounded by alligators. It's not as humid. At least it's indoors. And we've already covered, there was a riot inside because they're not giving them enough water or food. And the food they are giving them is totally inadequate, including ramen noodles.
More than 4,000 911 calls from just 4 detention centers in the last 3 weeks was reported by the Associated Press. 4,000 911 calls within a matter of 3 weeks from 4 separate detention centers. That's not all the detention centers. That's only 4. It's a mass crisis. People aren't getting water. They're not getting food. They have nowhere to sleep. They're not getting their medications. Diabetics aren't receiving their insulin. It's horrific. Pregnant women are not getting what they need to sustain their pregnancies, which I think, and this is my opinion, that's intentional. Well, the inhumanity and the dehumanization is the point. It's the point.
It's a good segue, even though it's not a good story. ICE arrested a pregnant Tennessee woman while in detention in Louisiana. She had a stillbirth. And by all the reports, she was asking for a doctor for several days. Iris Diana Monteroso Lemus spent 3 days asking guards at the Richwood Correctional Center for help before she was hospitalized, where physicians said she lost her pregnancy due to a lack of prenatal care. What happened? I thought the Republicans were all about the unborn fetus. I mean, that's a crime. These people should be put in prison. That didn't give her. First of all, the fact that you're even putting pregnant women in these detention centers should be a crime anyway. But she had a stillbirth. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure when you factor in the stress, the lack of prenatal care,
overcrowding, they're massively overcrowded, you know, with the ramp up of 3,000 per day, just kidnapping random people off the street and throwing them in there and then doing the processing later. It's unsanitary. The overcrowding. There's only standing room at some of these places. It was bad under Obama and it was bad under Trump's last presidency, but this is whole new levels of dehumanization and inhumanity.
This tweet This story is appalling. She was 5 months pregnant, yet doctors at the ICE center didn't give her any prenatal care or an ultrasound, even as she got sicker and sicker. When they finally took her to the hospital, she was shackled the entire time of her miscarriage. Shackling a pregnant woman that you denied care for several days. Make America great. Let's show you. This is them. They arrested, I guess, the father of 3 Marines. So there's no audio on that one, but sorry, there was no audio on that one, but that was someone who's been here for, I think, for 30 years. He was doing landscaping or gardening outside an IHOP in California when they rounded him up, and 3 of his sons were in the Marines. You're muted.
One of the sons was interviewed, and he said what his dad asked him for was to make sure that the job got done that he was working on. He didn't want to leave his clients out after he'd gotten detained, but he'd incurred several injuries from that. And if you look at how those guys are dressed, they look like Proud Boys or Patriot Front. You know, it could just be any random people from off the street. There are women
Well,
right
now. There are people that are impersonating ICE agents doing this.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
They're
rounding people up. They're putting them in cargo planes too. And the cargo planes, people are tracking them online and showing them go out, and then the radar goes off. Don't know where they're being taken to. But they're the kinds of cargo planes that can be put down during flight, where the back hatch can be opened. And there's no transparency there. Anything could be happening to those people. And we don't know where they're being taken. And the people that are being loaded up, even children in shackles.
We're working on getting an interview with this person. Tina's working on it, but a man in LA who protested, there's no other way to say it. One of his testicles was shattered.
That's awful.
ICE protesters seriously injured by rubber bullet shot to the groin. A man who was out protesting against ICE raids in downtown LA this week spoke with KTLE after an officer's close-range shot to his groin with a rubber bullet severely bruised one of his testicles and, quote, shattered the other. It sucks to sit down, the 33-year-old demonstrator, Martin Santoyo, said. They literally, I mean, if you're a man, you know what I mean. I mean, if you've been hit down there, it hurts, but it's one thing if you've been hit down there. It's another thing if it's been shattered. I can't even think of beyond the pain. There's might be reproductive consequences there. I don't know. So we're trying to get an interview with that protester who has had surgeries now.
The less than lethal can cause tremendous damage.
You have a Texas man born to a U.S. soldier on U.S. Army base abroad, deported. So, you know, Republicans love our troops, but let's deport their kids.
Or let's deport the troops.
Yeah.
There's a Marine that served, I believe it was 25 years, that was deported, had legal documentation. Served our country for decades in the military.
Then there is the Palantir of it all. That is Peter Thiel's Palantir, which is essentially the surveillance infrastructure for the Gestapo. This is from Anonymous. ICE is using Palantir to track down potential deportees by matching their last legal case number with their last known address and phone number. People that have moved and paid their rent in cash and use a prepaid phone are practically invisible to them. This is why we are seeing many instances of ICE pulling up on U.S. citizens at home. They have no idea who they're looking for or where they actually are. They are just being given an auto-generated list and quota, which encourages them to target anyone they see, even if not listed. Think of the current ICE operation like a telemarketer from hell. Instead of selling you something or cold calling you, they're showing up outside your house with guns and a bad attitude.
And this ties directly, Jordan, back to the cop cities that we've been covering, and warning about it we've been warning about it for 3 years now, that, you know, there's parallels that can be drawn between, and Teresa mentioned it in the chat, that can be drawn between Gaza and between what's happening here. And Alex Karp has openly said that the platforms that they're using to screen for these migrants are the same technology that Palantir used under the Lavender program and what they call Daddy's Home, where they tracked people in Gaza. Any man under 30 was considered a target, and possibly Hamas. And what they did is they tracked them to their home, and they waited till they were home and then bombed them. The entire home, family and all. And this was documented by Plus 927, I believe is the name of the outlet, but also covered by CNN and other outlets. But we covered it as well. And this, Alex Karp, the CEO, is boldly saying they are implementing the same types of programs to scrub our social media to track United States citizens and migrants in order to track people for them to then show up at an address or a locale. And they don't care. The migrant might not be living there anymore, and they might be busting doors down. It's just outrageous. And AI is stupid. Let me remind you guys of that. AI has an IQ of like 80 right now. It's stupid. It's not as smart as we are. They can process information faster, but it's not intelligent in that kind of way. So this is just random data that they're utilizing to track people without any real oversight whatsoever. $30 million contract is what Palantir got to do this, just starting out.
And by the way, if you're MAGA or if you're not MAGA and you were just kind of like an independent voter who voted for Trump, this is not lowering prices. Prices at the grocery store, still high. This is not lowering rent or housing, still high. It's not lowering utilities, still high. While, as we covered 2 hours ago, they are fucking you on Medicaid, on health care, on taxes, on everything else.
And where's all of our jobs? Have they magically, miraculously blossomed? No. Unemployment is actually going up. Amazon just laid off 47,000 workers, replacing them with AI processes and language models.
So this is the equivalent of just like dangling a shiny toy in front of a kid who doesn't know better. They're basically distracting you, some of you who seem to think the problem is the illegals, and throwing you the bone that satisfies you with basically, terrorizing people while they fuck you. This is not helping.
The ultimate straw man. And this is not the first time in American history. Go read a history book. They did it to the Irish. They did it to the Italians. They did it in Appalachia when the coal miners stood up against the coal companies, and you had freedmen, so freed black slaves at the time. You had Chinese workers, you had Armenian workers, you had the Scots-Irish, all marched up Blair Mountain. And you know what they did to those guys? They called in the National Guard and bombed them. Read your history. They will blame migrants every single time we're in economic decline. This is what they did. This is what the robber barons did in the Gilded Era during the Great Depression. It's the same old playbook, and we're falling for it. There's way too many falling for it all over again. Your jobs aren't coming back. They're not coming back.
Let me show you this. A director of an immigrants' rights group said that his organization had received around 4,000 calls regarding disappearances since June 6. Some, quote, some we just don't know where they're at. We just keep getting reports that folks are missing. And the response to that, Stephen Miller's quotas have broken the system ICE is supposed to use to keep track of people. People are going missing after they're arrested. They never get logged into the detainee locator system. Files can't be found. Even DOJ lawyers can't figure out where people are sometimes. I.e., and we have used it, and it's an accurate phrase, they're kidnapping people.
Absolutely.
They are kidnapping people. And by the way, quite not a small amount are American citizens. So it's not all undocumented people. They have wrongly taken American citizens or legalized citizens.
And it's not hyperbole to call these concentration camps where they're taking them. And if they're not taking them to concentration camps, people are literally being loaded up into these freighter planes, into these cargo planes, shackled, and we don't know where they're landing. We don't know where they're ended up after they take off.
Before I go, Zaina's going to take it from here because I got to go relieve my wife with the newborn. And Zaina will read the super chats and shout out members too, so don't worry about that. I will play this clip for Zaina to respond because Peter Thiel, who runs Palantir, which is the surveillance AI company that is basically Trump just gave a massive contract to, and they are helping to provide a centralized database of immigrants, undocumented immigrants, basically a list. And as we've just shown you, they're getting it wrong quite a lot of the time. This is Peter Thiel in a recent interview. See if you sense anything wrong.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing. I
mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe.
If that's not what I was doing, I would certainly have a better answer than that. And one more, and then Zaina could take it from here. He was confronted on the street. Go ahead.
I don't know that I can't show the super chats on screen the way that I'm logged in, just to give you a heads up.
I'll send it to you. Here we go.
Mr. Thiel, do you have any comments about Palantir's surveillance of the American people, sir? Or any of your connections to Jeffrey Epstein? I think people are rather concerned about that last particular one. You're setting up a Big Brother surveillance system, and people know it, sir. Do you think the American people want this surveillance tech being used against them? Any comments at all on the Epstein connections? You were meeting with them. People are waking up to what you're doing there, sir. That's why we're here covering this.
Take it from here. I'll have Colin send you those.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
And guys, if you have not signed up to become a member, you can at info or statuscoup.com/join. Statuscoup.com/join. And I'll put it right here in the chat for you, and we'll get me set up so that, let's see here, so that I can share some of these super chats with you guys. Thank you all so much for sending in the super chats. We have 16 new members, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for everyone who has joined as a member. Thank you so much, Judy Warren. Welcome. We also have Sharon Nix. Thank you so much, Sharon, for joining. We have Uzma Hussein. Thank you so much, Uzma. Dub Stepping It Out. Thank you so much for becoming a new member. Dub Stepping It Out is a great name. Headbanger 1992 for becoming a new member. Bart P 4788, new member. Welcome, Bart. We have Rob Dab, new member. Thank you so much for joining, Rob. It's great to have you. We have Kat Mesrovic. Thank you so much for joining, Kat. We have Jay Green Camp Bay. Thank you so much for joining, Jay Green. And we have Patrick Klaus. I apologize if I am I'm sorry, that's Patrick Lucas. Okay, it's hard for me to see. Patrick Lucas, thank you so much for becoming a new member. And from the way that I am logged in, I'm not able to flash them up on the screen, but I will go ahead and read the super chats here. We have Brian Whitaker, 4885. Brian says, and thank you so much for the super chat, Brian. Great work, my friend. Fight the power. Wall Street is not our friend. Thank you so much, Brian. We completely agree. The United Corporations of America is ran by Wall Street and shareholders, and that's the entire dynamic. It's all about them. This new bill that is being pushed out through the House and the Senate, Trump's new big, beautiful bill, is all about making it big and beautiful for Wall Street and shareholders and not for us. Denise Columbia. Hey, Denise, it's great to see you. Denise says, crazy how AI is so bad for the environment and nobody's talking about it. I'm hoping you guys can find room for that story soon. USA equals shit show right now. You're right. We are going to be covering, actually, we're considering going down to Memphis to cover the new installation that Elon Musk has there that is poisoning neighborhoods in Memphis right now, and people are fighting against this massive institution. And you are correct. And this new big, beautiful bill with 10 years of banned oversight, so no oversight of AI development for the next 10 years, means that we are looking at crazy possibility for pollutants and everything else, and it's a disaster for our environment, a disaster for the economy, disaster for the workforce. Nikki O'Brien. Thank you so much, Nikki, for the super chat. We really, really appreciate you. Nikki says, love y'all. Wish I could afford more, but I'm a $20 a month member. Thank you so much, Nikki. That's awesome. And you guys can join. We do have different tiers. It starts at $5 a month, and we appreciate your support so much, Nikki. Just wanted to pop in and say thank you. Your independent, on-the-ground journalism is crucial in these times. All who can, please join Status Coup. Thank you so much, Nikki. We appreciate you. We also have Kimiko. So Kimmy, hey Kimmy, it's so good to see you. We love everyone at Status Coup, including Zainab and her doggies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, my dogs occasionally bark. I live in a very small house, and it's only 2 bedrooms, and can't really put them anywhere. So occasionally we've been having construction next door, and my dogs like to say, hey, there's something going on over there. So thank you for your patience with that. And thank you so much, Kimmy. And thank you for joining us all the time. It's awesome to see you in the chat. Denise Columbia again, and Denise has also been with us for years, and we appreciate your support so much, Denise. Thank you for the super chat. Merch discounts when you join through the website. That's right. If you join through the website, you can get discounts on Status Coup merch, so you can wear and rock some Status Coup gear. And of course, that all those proceeds go to help with our on-the-ground journalism as well. Fly Chomper Fly. Good to see you, Fly. How's it going today? India Walton was a write-in. Jordan to get around it. India Walton India Walton ran in the primary, and the person who lost in the primary actually ran as a write-in afterwards. Nikki O'Brien, and thank you so much, Fly. We really appreciate the super chat. Nikki O'Brien says, yes, economic terrorism. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, economic terrorism is a great way to put it. And thank you so much for the super chat, Nikki. Asma Anasari says, and thank you so much for the super chat, Asma. We love you guys, Status Coup, and I will add a membership as soon as I'm able so I can support more consistently. Thank you so much for what you do. I recommend you to anyone and everyone I can. Thank you so much, Asma. We really appreciate that, and thank you so much for the super chat. That's awesome. Let's see. We also have Jim Talib with a $2 super sticker. Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you so much for your support. We also have Anna Miri. She became a new Status Coup member, so welcome. We also have Bernard Albert, who became a new member. Welcome, Bernard. And Naughty D became a new member. Welcome to the Status Crew. Jillian G577 sent a super chat that says, Jordan, do you plan on reporting on the Rockland County voting machine lawsuit? We should do some coverage on that. A few months ago, I actually had interviewed Greg Palast, so you can find that online. And Greg is a reporter for the BBC, occasionally reports for the Associated Press. Reports for NPR as well. He's someone who recently did a whole documentary covering voter suppression techniques and tactics that have been implemented in the last midterms as well as this current presidential election. It's amazing reporting. And when we interviewed him, he was talking about the Rockland County case, but he also mentioned that 1.7 million votes were not counted either because the voter rolls were flushed or because of suppression at the actual voting booth for things like signatures not looking exactly right. So there was a lot of legal but nefarious things happening, as well as potentially not legal things happening that did contribute to votes not being counted, upwards of 1.7 million, which is significant. But please check that interview out, and it would be great to circle back with someone like Greg Palast regarding what's happening in Rockland County. Great question, and that's definitely a story worth covering. So thank you so much for the tip. Talon Hammer, thank you so much for the super chat. To be fair, Status Coup helped Zohran a lot. I hope so. I hope that our coverage of these candidates that are often overlooked by mainstream media, because that is something that we do, helps to inform voters of what their choices are. Because we will cover independent candidates, we'll cover candidates running outside of the Democratic Party mainstream, we'll cover third-party candidates, and oftentimes the mainstream media does ignore these candidates when they run. So it's important that someone's covering them. And I do hope that it helps the voters to keep them informed when we do this coverage. And please check out some of Ashley's coverage from the watch party and covering the volunteers that worked for the campaign. More than 40,000 showed up. So it's great to hear directly from them on how it became a success and he was able to win this primary and what kind of issues are important to them. Fly Choppa Fly with another super chat. Thank you so much. Fly says, so many immigrants being legal at courts arrested. That's true. That's true. ICE has been showing up at courthouses on the day of processing, whether it be updating documentation status, whether it be their court case to renew immigration status. Some of them are marriage certificate statuses for people who are married. And they're removing people before their court case, before they're able to go in and see a judge. They are removing people with legal status. That is happening on a regular basis. Dozens and dozens and dozens of stories are coming out near daily. So that's very, very important. And I'm so glad that you pointed that out. And I think and then Fly Chompa Fly sent another one. He said, Walton election, Brown write-in to get around rules. That's right, exactly. Brown ran as a write-in in order to get around the rules. So like we were saying, they were talking about potentially starting a third party in New York for someone like for Eric Adams to run independent on that ticket. Now, anyone can run independent. That's true. You don't have to run under a party to run independent, but it is very interesting that they're claiming to start a new party because party rules vary drastically by state, and there are definitive rules. You can't just start a party out of nowhere in the middle of an election cycle in any state. Even Massachusetts has the easiest ballot access and party line access for third parties, and it still takes time to file, and you can't do it directly before an election in the middle of the season. Keeper It, thank you so much for Keeper Lit. Thank you so much for your super chat and for all of your support. And again, if you want to support Status Coup, please go to StatusCoup www.statuscoup.com/join. statuscoup.com/join, and that is how you can become a member. $5 a month will help keep us afloat. We're not taking any corporate money. We don't have any ad buys. We are 100% member supported, 100% member supported. And we want to do even more reporting on the ground. Like I'd said, we do want to go to Memphis and cover that. We would like to be able to cover more of what ICE is doing in local communities and stay on top of what's happening with the economic crisis across the country. So please, please, please support us if you can. And thank you guys so much for joining. I hope that everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you so much for your support. And also, just a shout out to our mods, people like Teresa, 2732, Chris Garrett, thank you so much. Holly Horn, I wanted to take a moment since it's Sunday and let our mods also know that your hard work helping to keep our chats and helping to keep our keep an eye out there means a lot to us, and we appreciate you as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Please go check out our live coverage from the week and stay informed. Thank you so much for joining us.